In a spacious room with a luxurious interior, a man is deep in thought. He realizes that something important is slipping out of his hands, something that can change his life. A woman with long pink hair struggles with strong emotions. Her gaze expresses both determination and fear, as if she has just realized the risk she has taken. The man looms over her, holding her by the shoulders. His eyes are a mixture of anger and doubt. He knows that what is happening is a mistake, but something is holding him back. The thought flashes that she escaped from one monster only to meet another. It's as if her fate is mocking her by putting her in a new, dangerous situation. The man frowned and wondered if he could protect her despite his harsh nature. He saw something in her that turned his usual world upside down. The woman gathers her strength, deciding not to give in so easily. Her inner voice fills her with determination to confront circumstances that seem unbearable to her. He gives her an unambiguous reproach, as if he were putting her in a dead end, proving her wrong. Her fixed gaze testifies to her inner challenge. There is a tension between them, as if the whole world has been compressed into these few moments. Every gesture and word is filled with hidden meaning. The man looks at her, and his eyes reflect unexpected humility. The understanding dawns in him that everything he knew could be destroyed. She sees his determination but does not give in. Her silent resistance suggests that in this fight no one will emerge victorious, only changed. The girl confidently declares that she knows all the secrets of the relationship between husband and wife, intriguingly playing with the hand of her interlocutor, causing him embarrassment. She continues to note that despite their knowledge they are not yet a married couple, her tone filled with mystery and a slight challenge. The man covers his face with his hand and quietly laughs, trying to hide his embarrassment, then discreetly calls her Lady Whitlow, asking her to keep her distance. His face changes. Alienation and tension appear on it. He abruptly demands that she leave his room, insisting on his position. The girl calmly continues the conversation, noting that previously she would have been overcome with shame, but now these emotions mean nothing to her. She reveals a secret. Alfred offered land to the Duke of Whitlow in exchange for her voice sounding like a challenge to fate. The heroine says that her father is going to marry her off to Alfred, emphasizing that this decision goes against her wishes. She asks, what if someone else wants to make her his wife? These words sound like a provocation full of hidden subtext. The man reproaches her for her lack of manners, but the heroine wittily remarks that it was he who first violated etiquette by responding to his criticism with dignity. Finally, she offers an alternative, the Benno gold mine, pointing out that it will bring the Duke more profit than ordinary lands, hinting at her control over the situation. A young man with a cold gaze hints at the low value of a woman by comparing her to a depleting gold mine. His words are full of contempt and hint at hidden resentment. She answers confidently, comparing herself to a flower that has not yet faded, implying her value is higher than gold. This makes the man think. Her calm smile and confidence surprise the man. She looks mysterious, as if she knows more than she is ready to say. He begins to doubt. The sealed letters fall on the table. The man realizes that this information could not be disclosed. Questions fill his head. He stares at her, tense, knowing that she knows something important. His words are full of suspicion and hidden threat. The man loses his patience and threatens her to shut up if she values her life. The tension in the room reaches its peak. The woman raises her head and says that if she dies, then he will not escape death either. Her words sound like a challenge. The man understands that her plans are not destined to come true and threatens her with an unfortunate death. He tries to intimidate her, but she remains unperturbed. The woman confidently states that he has no choice but to accept her conditions. Her words emphasize her strong position. His thoughts are torn between irritation and admiration. He finds her impudent and strange, but he cannot ignore her strength and confidence. The blonde girl thoughtfully admires the surrounding nature, pondering the situation. She is amazed that no one dares to threaten her. The man with the piercing gaze has difficulty understanding her true intentions, which causes him mixed feelings. Looking into each other's eyes, the man apologizes to her for his rudeness, admitting that he was wrong and thereby arousing her curiosity. He suddenly asks why she is ready to link her fate with someone who lives a miserable life, emphasizing his surprise. The girl resolutely declares that she wants to leave the family, which she considers cursed, hinting at her inner pain. She shares that she is ready to take extreme measures for her freedom, including marriage to a beastman, although her gaze remains confident. There comes a moment of darkness when her life is threatened. She resists, but her strength is gone, leaving only fear. The man, overcome with rage and despair, bends over her, and her heart senses the approaching death. She can no longer make a sound. Thoughts of a miserable death run through her mind as her body weakens. The last seconds of her consciousness are filled with one thought: the fight for life is not over yet, despite the premonition of the end. Iris feels like her life is on the verge of ending. Darkness envelops her, but inside her there is a desire to live, and she firmly declares it. The mystical light answers Iris. The question makes her think, but her resolve strengthens and she is given a second chance, the opportunity to live on. Waking up in a quiet room, Iris realizes that a month has passed since her return to life. Her mind is full of thoughts about what happened. Iris remembers how her life ended at the age of 40. Scenes of her marriage and shattered hopes flash before her eyes. Remembering her tragic past, Iris realizes that she has knowledge of future events. This knowledge has become her gift and her curse. Iris realizes that she has returned to her 20s. Her eyes are full of determination to change her fate and not make the same mistakes. Realizing that this is not a dream, she leaves her home and goes to Caveland Green, determined to leave the past behind. Time passes and still no contact from Caveland. Iris waits, wondering what her next move will be. A girl comes to Iris with an energetic smile, pointing out an important moment. Today, she must meet her future husband. The moving words about her fiancé make Iris's heart tremble. Her new chance is filled with surprises and hope for a happy future. Brittany, dressed in a fancy blue dress, remembers the mystery man's name. Her face lights up as she finally says the name Alfred to Iris. Iris, reserved and calm, barely audibly confirms this name. Her violet eyes reflect the hidden emotions hidden behind her silence. A hot-tempered Brittany suddenly grabs Iris by the collar, demanding an explanation from her. Iris remains steadfast even in such an aggressive situation. Brittany sarcastically points out Iris's heritage, claiming that her mother was a commoner. Anger wells up in her, but Iris coolly meets Brittany's gaze. Brittany's words are threatening. She reminds Iris of the need to marry a noble man. Iris is silent, but her eyes are sad and detached. Iris's wounded pride briefly surfaces when she compares Brittany's words to her father's situation. The words shake Brittany to her core. Brittany is furious but barely has time to contain herself when the maid appears in the room, concerned about what is happening. The scene is heated to the limit. Brittany takes Iris's hand, announcing that the Earl of Caveland Green has arrived. The girl's nervousness is noticeable, but she tries to act confident. Count Green, stately and self-confident, enters the hall. His gaze immediately falls on Iris, which causes displeasure in Brittany, who was clearly counting on the Count's attention. Brittany greets the Count with a dazzling smile, trying her best to get his attention. However, the Count is clearly interested in talking to Iris, leaving Brittany confused. Count Green, holding back his emotions, addresses Iris, emphasizing her importance. His gaze is cold, but hides respect and interest. Brittany is outraged by what she heard, her face expressing surprise. Attention is focused on the rules protecting Iris and her status. Iris remains calm despite the tension. The Count emphasizes her equal status with the Dukes by showing respect. Iris is reserved and majestic, attracting attention with her confidence. The Count realizes that he is facing one of the most influential figures. Mutual respect develops into emotional closeness when the Count tenderly takes Iris's hand, promising protection and devotion. In the glow of rose petals, Count Green proposes to Iris, expressing his feelings and his promise to be there. Iris accepts the Count's proposal. She is calm, but her eyes show confidence that she has made the right choice. The sudden appearance of the man displeases the Count. He defends his decision, ignoring outside comments. The Count firmly states that he was never interested in Brittany. His words sound sincere. He is confident in his choice of Iris. The Count confirms that Iris is the only one who has conquered his heart. His words sound firm, and his gestures convey tenderness. Count Green presents Iris as a figure of grace and confidence. She captivates with her appearance, evoking hidden emotions in those around her. Brittany is shocked and confused. She cannot believe that the Count chose Iris, considering her an unworthy rival and an unfair decision of fate. An indignant Brittany clutches the hem of her dress, thoughts of injustice ringing in her head. She doesn't believe that Iris could have charmed the Count. Brittany's parents note with worried expressions that their eldest daughter is still unmarried, while Iris becomes the center of attention. Count Green calmly replies that he does not see a problem with this, citing examples of other aristocrats whose younger daughters married earlier. Count Green's serious gaze arouses excitement in his interlocutors. His decisiveness emphasizes the importance of the decision he has made. The Duke wonders if the Count is worthy of being his son-in-law. In a tense atmosphere, every word is weighty and evokes emotions in everyone. The frightened Duke tries to assure that he has no doubts about the Count. Meanwhile, Brittany starts screaming, expressing her grievances. Brittany, remembering the previous banquet, reproaches the Count for the attention he once gave her and demands an explanation for his behavior. The Count only smirks, confirming that Brittany is wrong. His words finally destroy her hopes, leaving her at a loss. Brittany tries to explain that there was a misunderstanding. She is tense, her words cause a feeling of shame and confusion, but she tries to be convincing. The man reacts rudely, accusing Brittany of being inappropriate. She looks embarrassed, trying to justify herself, but the situation only gets worse. Count Green remains calm, explaining that he accepted the invitation solely out of respect for her family. His words sound like a subtle reproach. Brittany apologizes sincerely, clearly feeling awkward about the situation. Her voice is full of regret and confusion. The man watching from the side is surprised by what is happening. His face expresses bewilderment, and he tries to comprehend how everything went so far. Iris sees this situation as a chance to get closer to Count Green. She analyzes her options, planning how to use the situation to her advantage. Count Green addresses Iris directly, awaiting her decision. His tone is gentle, but there is a hidden urgency in his words. The man encourages Iris, clearly waiting for her response. He looks worried, as if the situation worries him even more than it does her. Iris feels the pressure but keeps her composure. Count Green supports her by showing that he is ready to be there and help. Iris makes her decision and answers affirmatively to Count Green, expressing her willingness to follow him. Their hands join, ending the emotional moment. Iris, the girl with pink hair, accepts an important offer. Her calm expression reflects confidence in her decision. She is ready for change. Golden blonde Brittany interrupts the moment with a loud protest. Her cry of "no" underlines her emotional outburst and unwillingness to accept it. Brittany accuses her father of acting hastily, convincing him that Iris is not ready for marriage. She is agitated and appears extremely tense. Brittany's father scolds her for her behavior by sending her to her room. Her stunned expression shows that she did not expect such a response. Count Green looks out the window thoughtfully, pondering the situation. He is amazed at how everything unexpectedly turned out that day. Iris explains that she was expecting Viscount Alfort to arrive. Her calm contrasts with her confusion at the unpredictable events. She suggests that the Count might have known about the Viscount's visit. Her sideways glance lends her words a hint of doubt and anticipation. The document on the transfer of the gold mine is signed. Iris takes a step that strengthens her position and causes surprise among those around her. Count Green embraces Iris, supporting her in a difficult situation. His determination underlines the significance of the moment. He announces his intention to take Iris with him, demonstrating his feelings and determination to protect her from any hardship. Iris reflects on the unexpected visit of Count Green, who seems ready to change her destiny. Her face shows excitement and bewilderment. Count Green, lost in his thoughts, looks into the distance with a mysterious half-smile. His determination is felt in his gaze. The Count acknowledges the gravity of the situation, not understanding how it could have gotten this far. His fingers clench slightly, betraying the tension. The unknown men lie prostrate on the ground, their faces a mixture of anger and despair, and the surroundings convey a sense of helplessness. One of the defeated looks like their leader is in shock. He is outraged by what is happening and cannot understand how this is possible. Iris realizes that the victory over the strongest mercenaries went to two mysterious masked men whom no one expected to meet. One of the mysterious masked warriors confidently decides to take further responsibility upon himself, his gaze full of hidden intent. Iris's opponent is terrified at the approaching threat, his scream reflecting the fear that engulfs him completely. The fine line between life and death becomes apparent as the sword flashes before the eyes of the defeated, heightening the drama of the moment. Iris turns to Count Green and clarifies the details of the further route. Her voice sounds calm, but her gaze is full of hidden determination. Iris remembers how she used to get to the castle quickly, but now her path feels completely different, filled with uncertainty and anxiety. Count Green notices her calm gaze and finds her too relaxed. There is a hidden wariness in his eyes. Iris, despite the tension in the air, assures that she understands the Count's intentions perfectly, although she does not allow him to penetrate her thoughts. The idea that Iris sold herself for some unknown purpose causes the Count internal conflict and bewilderment. Remembering her words about wanting to leave the house, Iris realizes that the Count's estate is not a completely safe haven either. Their interaction is accompanied by a sense of danger. The Count realizes that living in constant fear of death is becoming habitual for them. The Count's gaze penetrates into Iris's very soul, as if reminding her of the painful fate of being the wife of a werewolf who hides his nature. Their tense dialogue is interrupted by a short but emotionally charged moment. Every movement seems to speak of hidden feelings. The Count wonders how Iris is going to defend herself if everything she knows could turn out to be unnecessary or false at any moment. Iris, sitting opposite the Count, is sure that he is trying to intimidate her, but to no avail. She realizes that her knowledge of the future is not trustworthy. Count Green holds Iris's hand, his gaze full of confidence and slight menace. Iris, despite her outward calm, is noticeably tense. The girl, with a gentle smile and a mischievous gleam in her eyes, says that her words require proof, inviting the Count to see for himself. The Count comes closer, running his hand through her hair, calling her the Duke's flower. His voice is soft but with a hint of mockery. He lifts her up onto his lap. Iris looks him straight in the eye, her voice firm. She is not afraid of his presence. The Count's gaze becomes more serious. He assures her that she will regret her actions, calling her by her name, Lady Iris. Iris admits to herself that she didn't expect the situation to go this far. Her face betrays her inner confusion, but she maintains an outward restraint. When she tries to say something, the Count asks her to be quiet. His tone remains insistent but calm. He clearly dominates the conversation. He hugs her tightly, leaning his head closer to her face. Iris froze, but her embarrassment became more and more obvious. Iris admits that her heart is beating faster. She feels the tension growing between them, his closeness frightening and enchanting at the same time. The girl feels that his intentions are much more serious than she imagined. Her thoughts are confused, but the Count does not retreat, holding her even tighter in his arms. Iris, a girl with pink hair and purple eyes, is stunned when she hears her name, her gaze expressing surprise and slight embarrassment. Count Green, a man with dark hair and blue eyes, holds Iris's shoulders gently, admitting that he was a little nervous. They are in a carriage where a servant reports that they have almost reached their destination. The Count confirms by squeezing Iris's hand. Iris invites you to look out the window. Her face lit up with a soft smile that reflects calmness and self-confidence. From the window, a majestic castle is visible, and Iris asks if this is the house they have always dreamed of, creating an atmosphere of dreams and anticipation. Inside the castle, Iris asks the Count if there were any difficulties in preparing the room. Her gaze is serious but still friendly. The Count suddenly announces that from today on they will share one room, adding a touch of intrigue and confusion to the conversation. Iris is confused but composed, and the Count ponders what it means to be a married couple, trying to understand the feelings that are awakening within him. Iris resolutely declares that her name should be Irie. Her smile expresses sincerity and readiness for rapprochement and a new stage. The Count admits that Airy often surprises him, and their dialogue ends with a slight hint of romantic rapprochement. Iris introduces herself to Count Green, offering to call her by her first name. The Count, showing gallantry, agrees, offering his hand in greeting. Looking around, Iris admires the room she is in. She is surprised how their acquaintance suddenly turned into this setting. Iris looks back on her past, reflecting on how in her previous life, marriages were often limited to cold relationships and separate rooms. Iris thinks about it, but suddenly the Count pulls her closer. She ends up in his arms and their eyes intertwine, creating a tense moment. The Count notices her thoughtfulness and, with a playful intonation, asks if she has forgotten something important. A hidden tension flares up between them. The Count approaches Iris and says something meaningful that makes her smile slightly. It's as if they are playing a mysterious personal game. The Count suddenly presses himself against Iris, hinting at his unusual nature. Her soft smile responds to his provocation, hinting at her knowledge of this secret. Iris firmly stops the Count by gently touching his face with her hand. This action surprises the Count and makes him doubt. The Count pauses to notice that Iris is hiding something important. Her words about being afraid of him suddenly sound like a challenge or an invitation to get used to him. The Count, accepting the challenge, gives in to her desire. He bends down, their figures merge in the bright light of the hall, creating a sense of the birth of a new stage in their relationship. Iris, a pink-haired girl, curiously notices the rare phenomenon of a beastman's transformation, feeling awe at the unknown. A figure rises from the shadows, shrouded in black smoke. Iris takes a cautious step forward, trying not to disturb what is happening. A huge wolf with a piercing gaze appears before her. The atmosphere fills with tension. Iris watches him in silent admiration. Impressed by the wolf's size, Iris feels both fear and admiration at the same time, but remains cool and curious. She approaches him gently, touching his muzzle, showing that she is not afraid at all, which surprises the beastman. Iris honestly admits that she admires his beauty and strength. She sees in this creature not only power but also a hidden tragedy. A bloody scene from the beastman's past flashes before Iris's eyes. The wolf lies on the ground, wounded and bleeding. Her thoughts are filled with pain. Iris cannot understand why such a fate was prepared for this majestic creature. I remember the moments of the struggle. The beastman fought to the last until he was struck down by a merciless blow from a man with an axe. Iris learns that this wolf has dedicated his entire life to protecting the sacred relic, remaining alone for a higher purpose. Iris hugs a huge black wolf and feels the injustice of the situation. The wolf looks at her as if he wants to support the girl. Iris, not hiding her confusion, places her hands on the wolf's muzzle as if seeking consolation. The wolf calmly accepts her gestures. Her voice sounds confident, promising consequences. The wolf looks at her silently as if evaluating her every word. Iris embraces the wolf, affirming her resolve. He bows his head, indicating that he understands and accepts. The wolf's blue eyes penetrate deep into her soul, asking about her confidence. Iris, without looking away, asserts her decision. Suddenly, a man with black hair appears in front of her. His presence changes the atmosphere, but Iris remains calm. The man embraces her, showing tenderness. At this moment, she understands his strength and devotion, imbued with trust. Suddenly, they are interrupted by a servant bursting into the room. His voice sounds alarmed and his gaze is frightened. The servant tries to figure out what is happening. His companion, exchanging glances with him, wonders what happened. The situation is heating up, but the focus remains on Iris and Earl Green, whose bond is growing stronger. Iris entered the luxurious office and found Count Green shrouded in mystery. Tension hung in the air, as if anticipating a drama. The Count raised an eyebrow and reproached her for barging in without knocking. However, instead of answering, Iris was only surprised by his indifference to her embarrassment. Green's servant apologized to Iris for his master's rude behavior, trying to soften the situation, but the girl still looked confused. Another servant burst into the room, bearing the Count's shoulder. He offered Iris to explore the castle to distract her from the strange events. Iris thoughtfully noted that despite his outward coldness, the Count seemed to be a good man. This thought aroused her curiosity. The Count, buttoning his shirt, told Iris to call him if she needed help, leaving her confused by his unexpected politeness. There was a majestic atmosphere around the castle. Iris looked around the hall with interest, realizing that many adventures awaited her here. Her laughter filled the room. Iris thought that life in Green's castle would definitely not be boring, succumbing to the charm of what was happening. Iris was warmly greeted by the Count's servants. Nathan proudly introduced himself and boasted of his fighting skills, immediately winning the girl over. Servants Wallace and Eugene showed respect and offered assistance, assuring that Iris could count on their support in any matter. The servants express surprise at Count Green's marriage. They ask Iris to take care of him even if he is angry. She agrees, feeling responsible. Count Green, realizing his responsibilities, decides to show Iris the new house. He asks the servants to leave them alone so he can spend time with his wife. The servants, understanding the Count's hints, happily leave, leaving Iris and Green alone. Their departure underlines the trust they have in Iris. Iris and Green remain in the room. The Count sighs wearily, calling the servants bastards, but Iris notices that he gets along with them better than he seems. Green says his relationships with his employees are based on a sense of family. His smile warms, revealing his caring nature. Green's words about family touch Iris. She repeats the word thoughtfully, reflecting on its new meaning for herself. Iris realizes that her environment is now her family. We see the moment of her internal acceptance of a new stage in her life. Elsewhere, Brittany is outraged to learn of Iris and Green's wedding. She considers it humiliating and does not hold back her anger. Brittany argues with her father, not understanding why he allowed the marriage to happen. Her anger reflects personal hurt and a sense of injustice. Brittany's father explains that marriage to Earl Green is beneficial to their family because it opens access to a gold mine. Brittany is stunned by such mercantilism. Brittany loudly declares her indifference to the mine, but there is a challenge in her words, and the man opposite looks embarrassed and tense. Brittany's inner thoughts reveal her determination. She considers Earl Green her own, clenching her fists in determination to defend her rights. Brittany's rival, holding a fan with a sly smile, is confident of her victory. She is determined not to give up what she considers hers. Brittany is surprised by her mother's words that she considers her actions a waste of time, which makes the girl think. Brittany's mother smiles slyly as she reflects on how well she raised her daughter. She sees Brittany as a tool to achieve her goals. Brittany's mother's confidence grows. She is convinced that her daughter will reach even greater heights, making the girl believe in her own importance. A man in Brittany's company ridicules Count Green as not being a significant enough match. Brittany is suddenly overcome with new inspiration. Brittany decides that the Crown Prince will be her target. She is sure that this is the right step to raise her status and importance. In her mind, Brittany sees herself as the winner, imagining how her opponent will be forced to bow down before her. Brittany is determined to plan her next steps. She is confident that the letter she has in mind will be the beginning of her new strategy. Iris sadly realizes that she has always remained in the shadow of her beloved daughter, feeling how the past leaves a deep mark on her heart. During a late dinner at Count Green's castle, Iris admires the taste of the food and the sophistication of the setting, appreciating the cozy atmosphere. The Count asks what she liked most. Iris thoughtfully notes that she can't pick just one place because the entire castle is charming. Reflecting, Iris admits that every part of the castle is filled with unique beauty, leaving her with an indelible impression. The Count personally shows Iris the banquet hall, escorting her through corridors filled with elegance and an atmosphere of mystery. Iris is surprised that the Count himself gives her a tour, since he could have entrusted it to one of the servants, showing attention to her person. She realizes that the Count is much more sincere than he seemed at first. This discovery gives birth to warm feelings and trust in her. Looking at the Count, Iris notes his kindness hidden behind his external severity, which touches her to the depths of her soul. She expresses her gratitude for his attention, emphasizing how important this personal tour of his castle is to her. In a quiet conversation at the table, Iris and the Count exchange glances, feeling a budding understanding and closeness between them. Iris reflected on her feelings, remembering the events that had awakened something strange in her. She felt an inner uncertainty. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden glance at Count Green, who unexpectedly attracted her attention with his calmness and confidence. Iris thanked Green for his help, but he asked with a half-smile if she wanted to repay him somehow. Green added with a hint that he was ready to justify her expectations, while confidently demonstrating his charm. Iris admitted that she does not have her own clothes, because there was nothing left in the house where she lived after the disaster. Green gently offered her the use of his robe so that she would feel more comfortable in the new surroundings. Iris thought about the offer, slightly confused, not knowing how to react to such an unusual proposal. His serious tone surprised and confused Iris, because she did not expect such care from such a mysterious person. Coming closer, Green made Iris feel a slight excitement that was reflected in her gaze. By removing his clothes, Green further increased the feeling of closeness and trust between them, leaving Iris in thought. Iris tenderly accepts the care of Count Green, who, with a smile, throws a cloak over her, creating an atmosphere of comfort and warmth. She is confused by the sincerity of the Count, who not only cares about her, but also hints that his intentions are much deeper than they seem. Iris captivates the Count with her beauty. His gaze fills with admiration and tenderness, as if he were seeing a real treasure. The Count, embracing Iris, seems to dissolve in her warmth, admitting to himself how much she attracts him, being so vulnerable. In the silence of the night, he watches as Iris, exhausted by events, falls asleep next to him, and his thoughts are filled with tenderness. He feels that his own sincerity, revealed for the first time, may be deceived, but Iris seems immune to his fears. Iris, lost in her dreams, doesn't even realize how the Count is thinking about how deeply she has penetrated his heart. A vision of Iris wanting to leave his house causes the Count to feel an unexpected fear of loss. He realizes that Iris is now part of his family and is ready to do everything to make her feel loved and protected. The Count promises himself to protect Iris, wanting to see her blossom in peace and happiness under his protection. Iris, naked in her dressing gown, addresses Earl Green cautiously, clearly feeling nervous. His calm gaze shows his willingness to listen. The girl holding the candle resolutely declares her desire to offer her help. Her confidence and warm smile create an atmosphere of trust. In the room, watching the weather outside the window, Iris dreams of a walk and remembers the long-forgotten feeling of freedom. Iris sadly reflects on how the maids took her dress. She feels uncomfortable from the lack of her usual clothes. She thinks about her past life where she didn't care about details like clothes and wonders why it has become important to her now. Hearing a knock on the door, Iris turns around. Her voice sounds wary, but curiosity gets the better of her because she wants to understand who has come. Wallace stands at the threshold, telling Iris that he wants to introduce her to someone. The girl allows him to enter, hiding her anxiety. A man with dark hair and blue eyes enters the room. He apologizes to Iris for not greeting her properly. New acquaintance James introduces himself as the butler of Earl Green. His politeness and charm leave a pleasant impression on Iris. At the table, the Count tells Iris that he has not yet assigned maids for her and asks her to contact him directly. This strengthens her trust in him. Pink-haired Iris and Earl Green discuss how best to address her. She suggests dropping the formalities but maintaining respect. Iris delicately asks to choose suitable clothes for her so that she feels comfortable, expressing confidence and softness. The servants explain that the tailor will only be able to help in a few days, but this does not suit Iris. Her patience is running out. Iris firmly insists that she needs the clothes now, expressing determination and confidence that her request will be fulfilled. She remembers Nathan, noticing that their body types are similar, and decides to borrow his clothes, showing her resourcefulness. The men are confused by Iris's idea of wearing men's clothing, but one of them offers a solution with a slight smile, emphasizing his calm. Count Green expresses doubts because Nathan is a man, but Iris ignores this, maintaining her decision. Iris looks back on the past, realizing that she wants to feel free to make her own decisions and no longer be dependent on the demands of others. The new house gives her a feeling of calm, but she notes that she wants to live by her own rules in order to gain freedom. Iris looks with a slight smile, thinking that the main thing is convenience and comfort, emphasizing the desire to live a free life. Iris, dressed in an elegant dress, enjoys a conversation at the tea table. Count Green is surprised by her decision to visit Nathan's wardrobe. After an exchange of lines, Count Green offers his help, and Iris slightly thoughtfully evaluates his offer, creating a slight intrigue. Iris shares her desire to stroll in the garden and enjoy a sorbet. Her mood inspires her interlocutors, filling the scene with warmth. Count Green and his companion listen attentively to Iris. She hints with a slight smile at her right to control events in the castle. Iris makes a graceful gesture to clarify her rights, and Count Green confirms that within the castle she is indeed free to act. Having received an affirmative answer, Iris enthusiastically accepts the news. Her face radiates contentment, which raises the general mood. Iris walks out into the garden with an umbrella in her hands, enjoying the fresh air. Her light gait conveys the freedom and joy of the moment. Sitting on the edge of the fountain, Iris notes that the clothes are a little big, but comfortable. She considers whether to call a tailor. A sudden gust of wind lifts her umbrella. Iris admits with slight embarrassment that her hands are full and it is difficult to hold it. Despite the slight embarrassment, Iris remains calm. She enjoys the surrounding atmosphere and her absolute freedom in the castle. Iris sits by the ice cream fountain enjoying the moment. Her face glows with calm and her umbrella only adds to the charm of her image. Iris notices Count Green, who suddenly appears in front of her, his gaze focused, and he extends his hand to her as if he knows her. Iris is surprised by his appearance. The Count mentions a meeting with James in the morning, slightly mockingly, hinting at the importance of this conversation. The Count makes a caustic remark about James, calling him a gallant, handsome man. His slightly envious tone betrays his underlying irritation. Iris asks if the Count is really talking about James. The Count confirms, adding that it was James who brought her the ice cream. The Count's thoughts betray his jealousy. He feels that James is trying to win Iris's attention, which is evident in his dark gaze. The Count offers to try the ice cream, but does so with a slight challenge in his voice. His gestures reflect hidden tension. Looking into Iris's eyes, Graf wonders how to get her attention. His gaze becomes focused and his thoughts become confused. The Count suggests an unusual way to taste ice cream, hinting at intimacy. Iris is embarrassed, but her face remains impassive. Iris looks away, realizing that this is another of his jokes. Her thoughts are filled with a mixture of irritation and hidden sympathy for the Count. Iris notices her heart beating faster as she looks at Count Green. His cold expression seems mysterious and frighteningly attractive to her. Suddenly, she approaches and kisses him, not knowing how else to express her feelings. Confusion and determination are mixed in her head. The Count responds to her impulse by holding her face tenderly. At that moment, he realizes that the feelings he has been ignoring are real. Iris blushes and asks about her actions. The Count reassures her, surprising her with his warmth. This brings them even closer. Iris doesn't believe she can express her emotions so openly. The Count takes a step forward, placing her curls on her shoulder, which makes her tremble. The Count asks for forgiveness for his coldness, previously admitting that he simply did not know how to express his feelings, but is now ready to open up. The Count notices that her clothes are torn and suggests that she find something new. His concern makes the moment especially meaningful for Iris. Iris feels her heart fill with warmth. The Count has already taken care of her comfort by inviting a tailor, which touches her to the depths of her soul. Iris is surprised by his attention, not expecting such a turn of events. Her gaze expresses a mixture of surprise and admiration. The Count looks at Iris with an unusual softness in his eyes. Iris realizes that behind the cold exterior lies a man ready to love. Iris and Count Green are talking. He curiously offers to help her, but the girl is confused and bewildered by his unexpected attentiveness. The Count insists that he needs a personal maid. He explains that he wants Iris to help him and teach him etiquette by captivating her indecisiveness. The Count announces that Viscount Hughes will be visiting them soon. Tension flashes in his eyes, and the atmosphere fills with an uneasy premonition. The Count expresses his suspicion that the Viscount will demand an engagement. His face hides an internal struggle, and the tension between him and Iris grows. Iris looks at the Count and asks herself what to do. Her violet eyes glow with confusion, but she tries to remain calm. The Count ponders the Viscount and his intentions. A sharp question arises in his thoughts as to whether he should decisively remove Hughes from their lives. The Count, playing with the idea of eliminating the Viscount, warns that Iris will never see him again. Their glances intertwine. Iris, realizing the intensity of the situation, stops the Count. She insists that he cannot go so far in showing his moral core. The Count proposes another plan, to take the lands of Levent from the Viscount, which puzzles Iris. Her reaction underlines the unexpectedness of the proposal. The Count concludes his plan by stating that the lands could be a wedding gift. His gaze radiates determination and a subtle threat. Iris looks at Alfred's confrontation with confidence, her gaze full of determination. Her pride will not allow her to give up without a fight. Remembering recent events, Iris is sure that Alfred is asking her father to return her using emotional pressure. Iris analyzes the actions of Brittany, who does not agree with her marriage to Earl Green and is clearly up to no good. Brittany is trying to get rid of Iris, as indicated by her tense letter. Her intentions are becoming clearer. Iris realizes that Brittany and Alfred will intervene sooner or later. Her thoughts turn to sarcastic certainty. Iris discusses the gift with the Count, reminding him of her superiority. Their dialogue is full of hidden tension. The Count directly states that he does not owe Iris anything, reminding her of the previously established terms of their agreement. The Count points out their agreement. Iris is obliged to keep his secret in exchange for her freedom and position as Countess. He reminds her how he got her out of a difficult situation with a hint of her duty, while maintaining his mysterious smile. Iris sarcastically remarks on the Count's pettiness, which causes him a mixture of irritation and bewilderment. Iris, a graceful girl with pink hair and violet eyes, talks to Count Green. She makes a graceful sarcasm, saying that he is apparently one of those who cannot even give land to his wife. Her wit captivates and irritates at the same time. Iris's words touch on the nobility of the Green family. She mentions that despite their lack of wealth, his house is respected. Her tone seems provocative, but her gaze remains soft, leaving Green confused. Iris steps closer, looking into Green's eyes with a challenge. She notes that respect is not enough, hinting at the need for action, and not just reputation. Her confidence puzzles him and awakens a hidden emotion in him. Iris describes her conquests dreamily: the hot south, the harsh west, the icy north, and the prosperous east. Her story is wrapped in the romance of adventure, as if she were urging Green to look wider and go beyond the familiar. Her words end with a clear statement: all this is hers. She holds her hand out as if ready to take on the whole world. Her confidence is breathtaking, as if she is the master of fate, and Green is struck by this energy. Smiling, Iris clenches her fist as if to emphasize her determination. Her violet eyes are as bright as stars. She says she knows her worth and expects Green to see her as an investment that can change his life. Green, stunned by her words, takes a step back, trying to digest what he heard. His gaze becomes thoughtful, and her proposal sounds in his head, becoming a challenge for him. He feels an unusual excitement. He smirks, realizing how bold her words are. It seems that Iris has touched something deep within him. Despite their absurdity, her statement seems full of hidden truth and power. In a moment of inner realization, Green involuntarily recalls her confidence. It begins to seem to him that Iris is capable of changing his life, and this awakens in him a warm, almost forgotten feeling. Finally, she feels the touch of his hand. This unexpected action finally breaks his defenses. He realizes that Iris has not only challenged him, she has touched his heart and made him think about his future. Iris and Count Green are in the fresh air, surrounded by nature. The Count looks at Iris attentively. His gaze is warm and filled with sincerity. He makes an offer, promising to give her the lands of Levant, causing surprise and slight embarrassment in her. After his words, Iris looks at him with embarrassment, not knowing how to react. She feels new emotions penetrating her heart. The Count leans down to kiss her hand, confirming his intentions. The atmosphere between them becomes touching and filled with significance. Several days pass. The spacious corridors of Count Green's castle seem filled with light. The silence of the building only emphasizes the significance of the upcoming events. Iris considers the changes that have occurred in her life and plans her next steps. Having received the documents, Iris examines them with attention. She notes that despite the rush, they managed to find 2 maids suitable for the job. She is pleased that even with the limited time, the result exceeded her expectations. Iris mentally notes that although the Count does not trust her with serious tasks, she is pleased that the daily chores will soon be over. She feels relief that the chaos of the last few days is coming to an end and prepares for the return of calm. A red-haired girl dressed in a formal uniform approaches her from the hallway. Iris notices her confident gait and wonders what brought her here. She realizes that the maid clearly intends to say something. The red-haired girl acts coldly, as if ignoring Iris. Iris is surprised to notice that the maid's behavior is rude. She begins to worry about this attitude, especially in the context of her new status in the house. Iris muses that sometimes servants are jealous of their masters towards new people. However, she is amazed that this maid allows herself to express dissatisfaction so openly that it seems unusual even for her. She learns that the red-haired girl is the Viscount's daughter who has come to work at the Earl of Green's castle. For some reason, her manners and hidden hostility irritate Iris, creating a tension that is impossible not to notice. Iris decides that she needs to talk to the girl later to find out the reasons for her behavior. Meanwhile, she is distracted by a servant asking a question. Iris, still holding the documents, ponders how to handle the new situation. The servant informs Iris, a girl with pink hair and violet eyes, that the maids from the noble families have already arrived and are waiting for her in the living room. She answers reservedly but confidently, deciding to personally greet the new maids. Her gaze betrays her interest in the meeting. In the spacious living room, a servant introduces Iris to two girls, Aruza and Krishna. They look elegant, each with a hint of pride. Iris studies them carefully, noticing that both are clearly accustomed to high society. Krishna comes from the famous Fernie family, renowned for their outstanding artists. The family contributed significantly to the culture of the empire by creating masterpieces that decorated the palaces. Her quiet confidence underlines her noble origins. The Aruza family, the Lutek family, is famous for their scientific discoveries and outstanding scientists. Their achievements have brought the family recognition, so her presence in Iris's house is perceived as a sign of high status. Iris appraises the girls approvingly, recognizing their talent and the influence of their families. She thanks them for coming and smiles with mild approval, as both of them will undoubtedly have a place in her home. Krishna smiles and expresses his joy at serving in Iris's home. But her words provoke a violent reaction in Aruza, who awakens jealousy and a wounded sense of self-worth. Aruza flares up with indignation. Her emotions take over, but Krishna remains calm. She looks at her rival with a slight reproach, calling on her to show restraint. The contrast of their characters emphasizes the tension. Iris watches their interaction. She realizes that these are not just maids, but girls with strong characters and unique destinies. This moment makes her think about the future. The atmosphere in the room changes. Tension gives way to Krishna's easy smile and Aruza's silent resignation. Iris senses that this meeting will be the beginning of something new and meaningful. The story of two girls who ended up in Iris's house promises to be fascinating. Their differences, ambitions, and destinies will intertwine into a complex intrigue that will affect not only their relationship, but also Iris herself. Iris and two other girls who were connected by their family past met in the cozy living room. They were chatting animatedly, reminiscing about old times and playfully teasing each other. The atmosphere seemed light, as if everyone had known each other for a long time. The young man, with a confident smile, explained why Iris and the other girls were in the castle. One of them was free from family obligations, and the other was forced to balance her business with caring for her child. The room became lively again. Iris was offered to take a walk around the castle before dinner. The other participants in the scene smiled, agreeing with the offer that promised to give them unforgettable moments and discover new details of this majestic place. Two girls started an argument, causing a comical incident. One slightly stumbled and the other lost her balance. Their squabbles looked funny and lively, as if they were trying to hide their real affection for each other behind jokes. The escalating argument took on a new emotional tone. One of the girls reproached the other for her manners, and the latter responded sarcastically by declaring that she was not going to pretend to be a lady. Their bickering made the onlookers smile. The red-haired girl prepared herself for possible danger without thinking twice, taking out a dagger hidden under the hem of her dress. Her determination and readiness to protect her friend showed that she was ready to do a lot for the sake of her loved ones. The two girls realized that they had to protect Iris. Their eyes were filled with determination and fearlessness. They understood the importance of their mission and were not going to retreat in the face of any difficulties. An important man with a smug smile appears in the dark room. Brittany feels an unpleasant tension, believing that his intentions are far from sincere. She had to figure out how to act in this difficult situation. Brittany, frustrated by the events, blamed Iris for everything. Her anger and despair overwhelmed her, but deep down she knew that she needed to pull herself together to deal with what was happening. The servant informed Brittany of the Viscount's visit, but her irritation flared up again. She cut him off rudely, showing that she did not want any more trouble. Her emotions revealed an internal struggle between her sense of duty and her fatigue. Brittany clenches her fists in despair, realizing that this cannot go on any longer. She is lost in thoughts about the injustice of what is happening and clearly decides to act. Her determination fills the room, and the fury in her eyes reflects her growing desire to change the situation. Viscount Hutches and Brittany appear in a rich interior. The man with a pompous grin behaves arrogantly, and the woman sitting next to him in a black dress looks depressed. The Viscount sneers with contempt as if he plays by his own rules, enjoying his superiority. Brittany suddenly enters the room, silencing both of them. Her presence makes even the arrogant Viscount tense up. His words about waiting sound forced, like an attempt to hide his confusion. Brittany stands confidently in the doorway, as if she has the situation under control. Brittany casts a disdainful glance at the Viscount, mentally calling him a disgusting person. She is convinced that he should get what he deserves. A determination flashes in her eyes, as if she already knows how to implement her intentions. Addressing the Viscount, Brittany hints at his loss by offering to bring Iris back. She hints that his plans are falling apart and he is losing control. Brittany's words sound like a challenge. She plays on his weaknesses, making him nervous. The Viscount is lost in confusion, realizing that his position is precarious. Brittany hits him in the most painful spot, making him doubt. He understands that time and circumstances are no longer on his side, but tries to maintain the remnants of confidence. Brittany, with playful mockery, notes how easily he draws conclusions. Her confidence becomes unbearable for the Viscount, and her smile is a symbol of victory. She hints that his defeat is inevitable and enjoys his helplessness. She speaks of Iris's beauty and innocence, comparing her to a flower in the middle of a lake that not everyone can have. This image makes the Viscount think about lost opportunities and his complete helplessness in the face of circumstances. Brittany hints that Iris, being deeply in love, has lost her ability to think rationally. The Viscount realizes that his attempts to manipulate her have ruined everything. Brittany's words hit the nail on the head, revealing the weakness of his schemes. The Viscount realizes that he will not be believed and will not be forgiven for the humiliation he subjected to Count Prin. His inner world collapses, leaving only fear and shame. Brittany triumphs. Her plan worked, and she becomes a symbol of just retribution. Brittany gently reassures her interlocutor, assuring him that everything is under control. She reminds him that their family has the gift of changing reality, turning lies into truth, and is confident in her abilities. Iris's maid has an elegant comb decorated with elaborate flowers. She uses it to comb the girl's hair. Iris's servant, standing nearby, jokingly remarks that her mistress's face shows more than she thinks. Iris looks thoughtful but retains her grace. The dialogue is filled with friendly warmth, and the atmosphere becomes more relaxed. Time has passed since Iris's maids arrived in the castle, but they have already become her allies. One of them smiles and says that she will share Iris's words with another girl. The atmosphere is warm, as if the characters are becoming part of something common. The maids quickly got used to the castle. Each of them found their place. Aruela stands out especially. She easily performs her duties and found a common language with others. An atmosphere of trust and harmony increasingly envelops the characters. However, Iris can't help but notice the problem. She wonders why a certain person keeps interfering in her affairs. This causes slight irritation, but Iris remains calm and tries to understand the source of the problem. The servant reminds Iris that a similar situation has happened before. The maid asks a direct question, wondering how much longer this will continue, causing a shadow of irritation in the mistress. Mutual understanding between the heroines is slightly strained. Iris considers intervening in a situation that seems to be spiraling out of control. She stands up calmly, maintaining her dignity. The maid cautiously asks if she should intervene, watching Iris's reaction. Iris seems a little tired as she runs her hand over her head. She feels worn out from the endless series of small problems. However, she maintains her spirit, knowing that everything depends on her endurance and determination. The situation escalates when it is revealed that Gillette was originally the mistress of the castle, which became a source of conflict with the new servants. Iris realizes that the situation requires a diplomatic approach to restore harmony in the house. Iris sat in the elegant room, lost in her thoughts. Her pink hair fell smoothly on her shoulders, and her violet eyes reflected anxiety. She felt that with each passing day, the situation around her was only getting more difficult, as if invisible forces were slowly but surely oppressing her spirit. A young girl with bright red hair burst into the room waving her arms. Her face expressed complete confusion as she complained about what was happening and the confusion that had taken over her thoughts. Behind her, another girl, reserved and calm, only watched the outburst of emotions with tired eyes. The redhead tried to explain but got even more confused. Her companion, holding back her laughter, gently pushed her forward, advising her not to overdo it. Iris looked up, her violet eyes flashed, but she remained calm, listening attentively. Finally, the redhead collected her thoughts and turned to Iris with a request to listen. Her voice was filled with anxiety and fear of making a mistake. Her companion stood slightly behind, trying to support her friend in this difficult moment for her. Iris nodded reservedly, listening to the confused explanation. The pink-haired girl looked benevolent, but her intense gaze indicated that the conversation was not easy. She realized that carrying out the orders required effort and patience. The redhead admitted that all the tasks were very difficult for her. Her words sounded sincere, and Iris felt respect for her efforts. Iris's gaze softened, but she was in no hurry to give an assessment, continuing to watch her interlocutor. The redhead was filled with the complexity of the situation. She looked at Iris with admiration and a little fear, realizing that her work was still far from perfect. Iris, remaining unperturbed, continued to think about how best to answer. The dark-haired girl standing next to her tried to explain that the redhead wasn't as useless as she seemed. She said that it was her experience in the case that could be useful, not the Countess's advice. This statement only increased the tension in the room. Iris thought about it, but the silence was broken by the red-haired woman's companion, who decisively declared her impudence. Her voice sounded sharp as a lightning strike, but it could not break Iris's calm. She only slightly bowed her head, continuing to think about the words. Iris felt a growing sense of irritation inside her, as such behavior really did seem insolent. Her gaze became cold, but behind it there was a firm determination to sort out the situation and put everyone in their place. Two girls discuss Iris's proposal to Gillette. Gillette's red-haired friend with a braided hairdo seems puzzled but interested. They turn to Iris with excitement, waiting for her decision or confirmation. Iris, with a graceful smile and a soft look, declares that she was looking for someone to help her and considers herself lucky to have met Gillette. Her words are full of charm and sincerity, which seems disarming to her interlocutors. A servant informs Gillette that Countess Green has requested her visit. With an expression of mild irritation, Gillette ponders what this woman could possibly want. She is skeptical and feels tense before the meeting. Gillette waits in the Countess's room, noticing with irritation that 30 minutes have passed. She begins to wonder about the ulterior motives of the mistress of the house. Her patience is running out. The door finally creaks and Gillette, exhausted from waiting, becomes wary. Her green eyes are full of suspicion while the surroundings seem luxurious but cold. Iris appears with a stately gait and announces that she is glad to see Gillette. Her words seem both warm and sharp. The mood becomes tense. Gillette senses a hidden threat in her voice. Iris makes a remark about Gillette's supposed low level of education, which causes shock and indignation on the girl's face. Gillette does not understand why such words are spoken, but feels humiliated. Gillette, furious and embarrassed, expresses her emotions, but Iris coolly leads her to the idea of insufficient politeness. The verbal duel turns into a lesson that Gillette did not expect. Gillette is the daughter of Viscount Meret, who has decided to leave her home and become a governess in the Countess's castle. Gillette is determined to prove her worth. Warm tones of remembrance and aspiration for a new life. Iris looks at Gillette with a share of superiority, but also with the expectation that she will cope with future trials. Gillette, a red-haired girl, decides to become Caveland's maid, moving to his castle. An unusual choice for the daughter of a viscount, but the reason is clear. She is attracted to the noble master. Gillette is determined, confident that this place will help her get closer to her goal. Seeing the object of her affection, Gillette is filled with hope. The young man is cold and distant, talking to another nobleman, not noticing her presence. Her heart skips a beat and her gaze reveals the depth of her feelings. Iris, a pink-haired girl, understands the reason for Gillette's hostility. The maid is clearly experiencing an internal conflict, but Iris notices her virtues, her appearance, confidence, and stubbornness. This makes Iris think that the girl is not as simple as she seems. Gillette feels insecure around Iris. She mentally compares herself to her and dreams of being in her place. Iris, with her aristocratic appearance and aura of power, seems unattainable, which further increases the tension. Gillette confronts Iris, but her fears and frustrations are evident. Iris remains calm, and her piercing gaze seems to see right through her. Gillette feels exposed, but decides not to show weakness. Iris asks Gillette to sit down. It sounds imperious, but there is no aggression in her words. Gillette emphasizes the difference between their statuses. Iris's gaze seems both strict and understanding, as if she wants to break down the barriers separating them. Iris ponders how best to reassure Gillette. She realizes that politeness may be the key. She is sure that it will be easier to win the maid's favor and perhaps even ease her mistrust. Gillette, struggling with her emotions, feels betrayed. She notices that Iris, who is so noble on the outside, is actually only supporting the illusion. She is angry that her own efforts and suffering do not give her the strength that Iris has. Iris suddenly announces that from this day on, Gillette will be her personal maid. The red-haired girl is shocked to realize that her plans to get closer to the castle's owner are now complicated. She does not understand what this means for her future. Gillette is shocked by Iris's words. She cannot understand how this happened. Iris calmly watches her reaction, remaining adamant. In her eyes, one can read the certainty that their relationship will now change forever. Gillette, outraged by what is happening, passionately declares that she was the Count's personal maid and does not understand why she must now obey. Her rage grows and the tension in the room increases. She is not going to silently accept the changes and is ready to defend her dignity. Iris keeps her cool, declaring that her past no longer matters because she is hers now. Majestic and confident in her power, Iris emphasizes the inevitability of change. Her words sound like an order backed by icy calm. Gillette challenges Iris's words with indignation. Her voice trembles with rage as she emphasizes that her family has never bowed down to others. Her green eyes flash with anger, but underneath it, there is pain from the loss of the familiar order. Iris, unperturbed as always, explains that she sees no problem. She reminds that Gillette served the Count and now her duty is to serve the Countess. Her tone sounds as if this is self-evident. Her gaze conveys confidence in her own rightness. Gillette tries to object, but Iris interrupts her by noting that a marriage is always a marriage, regardless of its nature. Her phrase sounds like a challenge, emphasizing that a new reality is inevitable. There is undeniable strength and confidence in her voice. Iris gives Gillette a reproachful look. Her words sound like a lesson to a naive girl who does not understand the obvious. She is sure that Gillette is only resisting because of wounded pride. Iris's smile reinforces her superiority. Leaning onto the sofa, Iris notes that in time, Gillette will understand what she is leading to. She looks calm and collected, as if already anticipating her victory. Her gestures radiate grace, emphasizing the difference between their statuses. Gillette can't stand the tension and throws out a decisive answer. Her indignation reaches its peak and she leaves, refusing to accept the imposed position. Her steps are quick and confident, reflecting her inner rebellion and determination. Iris, who did not expect such a challenge, is surprised by Gillette's courage, who dared to leave without paying attention to her words. Her gaze becomes cold, and her violet eyes light up with determination to teach the maid a lesson. Gillette runs down the corridor, convinced that the Count will protect her from Iris. Her determination does not wane despite her fear of the inevitable confrontation. Her run seems to symbolize a desperate attempt to escape the new order. Gillette tries to reassure herself by reminding herself that she is beautiful and worthy. The words that her parents called her a beautiful flower instill confidence in her. She clenches her fists with determination, preparing to prove that she has the right to her place in the Count's life. With a confident gait, Gillette approaches the massive doors behind which Count Green is located. She reminds herself that she is the only woman allowed to enter his chambers, and this gives her the strength to overcome her doubts. Deciding not to waste time, Gillette knocks on the door with a smile. She is full of confidence that she will now prove her superiority and show Iris who is the real mistress of this house. A stern voice answers the knock, informing that the Count is busy. Gillette, not giving up, says that she urgently needs to tell him something important, but she is ignored behind the door, making it clear that she is not wanted. Gillette stubbornly insists that the situation is urgent. However, the doors remain closed and her attempts to break through the cold indifference run into a blank wall. Her persistence is suddenly interrupted by the appearance of Iris. The pink-haired girl watches silently, causing a flash of irritation in Gillette. Her presence exacerbates the situation. Iris takes her time identifying herself and calmly addresses the door. Her confidence and calm contrast sharply with Gillette's confusion and anger. The atmosphere between the girls becomes tense. In response to Iris's words, the door creaks open slowly. This moment increases the tension. Gillette is shocked to realize that Iris has the power that she lacks. Count Green appears on the threshold. His calm gaze is directed at Iris, and his soft smile emphasizes his disposition towards her. Gillette remains standing aside, aware of his impotence. The Count completely ignores Gillette, greeting only Iris. This moment finally shatters the red-haired girl's confidence. Iris becomes a symbol of strength and significance that Gillette cannot achieve. Iris shows Count Green her new dress, attracting his attention with her grace. He approves of her choice and his gestures show admiration. Iris feels slightly embarrassed, but at the same time happy with the recognition. The Count, holding Iris's hand, assesses her outfit. She cares about his opinion, and his words make her glow with joy. This moment becomes not only about the outfit, but also about their subtle emotional connection. Iris, slightly confused by the Count's intense gaze, smiles. She radiates tenderness and confidence while he, not letting go of her hand, wonders about the reason for her visit. The Count suddenly says that he wants Gillette to become her maid. This proposal sounds abrupt and shocks both girls. Gillette looks confused. Her tension is noticeable. Gillette anxiously explains that she is not sure of her abilities. Her green eyes are full of excitement, but the Count seems not going to change his mind, confidently assuring her. The Count agrees to Iris's request. His expression shows confidence, and she notes that she did not expect such calm from him. His attention to her wishes pleases her. Iris thanks Gillette for getting rid of previous conflicts, implying that her presence helped smooth over the tension. Gillette seems pleased with herself for having mastered her new role. Iris adds that the relationship with Gillette is still complicated. Gillette enters the garden, and her appearance causes both girls to become wary. Iris mentally notes that after a week as a maid, Gillette has become much more obedient than she expected. This unexpected turn of events leaves her with mixed feelings. Iris and Gillette lock eyes. A subtle thread of interaction based on trust and new circumstances allows Iris to realize how their dynamics have changed. The relationships between the maids in the house are complicated by Gillette, a red-haired girl. Although she tries to behave better, her bossy style irritates the others. Gillette tries her best to show off her superiority over the other maids, which only adds to the tension. Gillette meets Iris, a girl with pink hair, while walking in the garden. Iris keeps aloof, which offends Gillette. The maids discuss her behavior and speculate, accusing Iris of being arrogant and unwilling to communicate with them. Gillette and the other maids express irritation. They feel that Iris is judging them behind their backs with her calm demeanor. This increases the resentment, especially for Gillette, who sees Iris as a threat to her position. Iris, however, remains unperturbed. The maids wonder if there is some hidden meaning in her behavior. This mystery causes mixed feelings, from anger to respect for her restraint. Gillette is confused. Her confidence is shaken, and she tries to understand what drives Iris. However, anger and the desire to prove herself right take over, which forces her to make further plans. At this time, in the kitchen of the mansion, the maids discuss the Count's personal life. They notice that Countess Iris does not wear a wedding ring, which becomes the subject of their gossip. One of the maids confirms that she saw the ring missing. The conversation turns to speculation that their marriage may have been arranged, which heightens interest in the situation. Gillette tells the others that Iris told her that their marriage was indeed arranged. This statement causes a heated discussion among the maids, as it destroys their image of the Count and Countess. One of the maids notes that in other houses, similar marriages were accompanied by lavish wedding celebrations. The Count's behavior is considered rude and unbecoming of his status. The maids decide that Gillette may be the key to more interesting news, as she seems to know everything that is going on in the house. The intrigues and rumors continue to flare up. 3 maids are chatting animatedly, obviously discussing something forbidden. Their conversation is interrupted by a stern voice reminding them that they have nothing better to do since they are chatting. Everyone freezes in fear, realizing that they have violated discipline, and looks at each other with embarrassment. One of the maids, pale with fear, quickly apologizes as she leaves the scene. At the far end of the corridor, a man in a strict black suit stands, watching the situation with a cold gaze. His presence makes the others quiet down. This serious-looking man walked down the corridor with a pile of papers and packages in his hands. The internal monologue emphasized his awareness of the gossip among the staff concerning Count Green and his wife. He decides to ignore it and focus on his duties. Iris, with pink hair, having learned about the conversations, remains calm and advises not to focus on rumors. Her light and confident tone inspires calmness in those around her. The man agrees with her, mentally deciding not to be distracted by unimportant trifles. The sudden meeting with the Count takes the man by surprise. He appears in front of him at the door, leaving a feeling of slight tension. The atmosphere around him becomes gloomy, and the stranger looks confident and awe-inspiring. Count Green, with dark hair and cold blue eyes, greets the man. His calm confidence contrasts with the tense atmosphere. The man replies that he is on a mission from Iris, confirming the seriousness of his mission. The Count suddenly intercepts the documents and declares that he will deliver them to Iris himself. His gestures are confident, and he leaves no room for objections. The man is embarrassed but complies, realizing that there is no point in arguing with the Count. Iris is sitting in the garden surrounded by flowers. She is reading a book, radiating calm and charm. Her image seems to be the embodiment of tenderness and harmony, contrasting with the tense atmosphere around her. The appearance of the Count attracts Iris's attention. She is surprised by his visit, but her warm gaze shows her joy at the meeting. The Count looks relaxed. His face is lit up by a slight smile, and in his hands are the papers he brought. Iris notes that the Count is free today. Their conversation is filled with ease and mutual understanding. The warmth emanating from this scene emphasizes their closeness and sincerity. The atmosphere is enveloped in calm and trust, reflecting their mutual connection. Iris approached Count Green with gentle excitement, who looked detached among the ancient scrolls and books. She asked if she was distracting him, to which he replied with a smile that he had not rested for a long time. The atmosphere between them sparkled with subtle understanding. The Count, holding the documents in his hands, explained to Iris that he had taken them from a mutual friend, Jamie. Iris, with a slight smile and warmth in her eyes, noted that the Count was constantly busy, but this only emphasized his caring nature. The Count asked Iris if she had managed to look around the castle. She replied with regret that she had not yet found free time. There was a slight weariness and genuine sincerity in her voice that touched him. The Count, noticing her fatigue, suggested that they take a walk together. Suddenly he came closer, his gaze softened and his tone became almost a whisper. Iris was stunned by this sudden closeness, but there was a glimmer of warmth in her eyes. Having agreed, they went for a walk. Iris noticed how his strong arms gently held her, filling her heart with a strange mixture of excitement and comfort. His gentle gaze enveloped her in a trembling feeling. During the walk, the Count mentioned that Jamie had reported a rat in the palace. This detail alarmed Iris, but her eyes showed determination to figure out what was going on. Iris looked at the Count with slight reproach and noted that he could take better care of his surroundings. There was a soft severity in her voice to which he reacted in surprise, trying to understand what she was talking about. She mentioned Gillette, who served him with a hint of her possible involvement in the troubles. The Count was confused and shocked, but sincerely tried to understand without losing his composure. The Count accused Iris of avoiding him because she suspected his affair with Gillette. Her eyes flashed with bewilderment, and her answer was a mixture of embarrassment and determination. Iris tried to explain, remaining unyielding to his closeness. Emotions ran high, but eventually the Earl and Iris came to an understanding. Their walk ended with a deep look that showed both vulnerability and trust, laying a new foundation for their relationship. Count Green confidently declares that there is nothing bad in what is happening. His voice is full of calm. His dark hair is slightly tousled by the wind, and his eyes sparkle with an icy blue fire. His gaze is fixed on Iris, a girl with delicate pink hair and violet eyes who looks away thoughtfully, raising her chin. Iris pronounces the Count's name as if trying to understand his intentions. She looks graceful and unapproachable, her cold calm concealing her inner doubts. Her thin profile, adorned with light strands of hair, emphasizes her elegance and at the same time conceals deep anxiety. The Count's hand gently touches Iris's. In that moment, he vows that no one but her will share his bed. The words sound sincere, and his gaze is full of determination. Iris's hand trembles as if she doubts, but refuses to let go of this moment of intimacy. The Count claims that Iris is the only one who will be with him. Her eyes become wet with emotion, but she still asks about the other woman. A tense pause ensues between them, as if these words separate them despite their apparent closeness. The Count kisses Iris tenderly, as if trying to dispel her doubts. He explains that the Murdy family plays an important role in his plans. His actions indicate that he is trying to protect Iris and at the same time realize his goals despite the possible sacrifices. In a tense scene, Iris demands that the Count get rid of the woman she considers useless. The Count agrees without hesitation. This moment shows the complex dynamics of their relationship, where power and love collide, creating an invisible gap between them. Iris promises to reveal the secret to the Count in exchange for his decision. Her gaze is filled with mystical determination, and her voice sounds enigmatic. The Count listens attentively, his face expressing curiosity and slight wariness, as if he has a premonition that what he hears will change their lives. The Count asks how much longer they have to walk as he leads Iris down a shady forest path. He lifts his hand to wipe the sweat from his face. Iris follows him, slightly out of breath, but her determination and faith in his words keep her going. Iris stops in front of a tall building covered in greenery. She tells the Count that they have arrived. Her eyes are shining with tension and excitement because the place seems mysterious to her. There is a trepidation in her voice, as if she has just revealed a long-awaited truth. An ancient tower with closed gates rises before them. Iris admits that this place scares her, but something valuable is hidden there. The Count looks closely at the massive door as if trying to look beyond it, and the atmosphere around is filled with anticipation. In the gloomy surroundings, the wolf stopped warily, as if sensing the approach of something important. His tense posture and penetrating gaze created an atmosphere of anxious anticipation. A sense of impending change hung in the air, hinting at the beginning of something unusual. Iris, with long pink hair, appeared next to the wolf, her light dress fluttering in the wind. She calmly pointed to the door, explaining that it could be opened with a paw. Their union looked unusual, but the wolf seemed to understand her words, ready to act. A stone tower towered before them, the keeper of ancient secrets. Iris looked up thoughtfully, thinking about the magic that had almost disappeared. Time had mercilessly deprived the world of wizards, and sacred relics had become unattainable symbols of the past. The wolf moved forward cautiously, and Iris followed him, looking carefully at her feet. She thought about how even relics had magic. People who could use them were considered special and deserved everyone's respect, but such meetings were rare. Iris, with her deep violet gaze, suddenly froze as she realized the magnitude of what was happening. Her breath hitched as she realized that she was on the verge of discovering a great secret. In the light of the magical glow, her face expressed both surprise and awe. Before them lay sacred relics, an elegant golden cup, a purple cloth, a patterned dagger, and a staff with a heavenly design. Each item radiated an ancient power that seemed impossible for an ordinary person to obtain, and Iris felt their overwhelming power. The wolf warned Iris not to touch the relics. These objects were beyond the control of mortals, and touching them could be deadly. Her face tightened as she realized that without magic, this power was beyond her control and could destroy anyone. Iris stopped, realizing that her step could be fatal. Her thoughts were racing. To touch the legend or to respect its danger. It was a well-known fact. Relics could kill a person who did not possess magic. Her face expressed a determination full of internal contradictions. These magical artifacts preserved the history of deaths, causing awe and fear in those who dared to touch their secret. Iris, with her pink hair and violet eyes, listened thoughtfully to the story of people who were once able to wield magical relics. Next to her, Count Green, a wolf with piercing blue eyes, seemed the embodiment of wisdom and caution. Count Green calmly replied that perhaps such people exist, but no one dares to check. The slightest mistake could lead to eternal imprisonment inside these relics, which is considered a fate even more terrible than death. The Count listed the magical artifacts. A golden cup from which grains poured, a sword capable of healing, a rod that controlled nature, and a mysterious artifact that hid one's appearance. But all of them were dangerous and required incredible caution. Iris looked up at the name as if she felt something important was waiting for her ahead. Count Green also looked wary, as if he sensed the approach of events that could change everything. A guest appeared at the door. His steps were confident, and his posture was correct. However, there was something in his face that hinted at a conflict or unresolved feelings hidden behind the outer mask. In the next room, the discussion went on as usual. The maids whispered in surprise, having caught the joke, which was about the first kiss on the shore of the lake. Their curiosity knew no bounds. One of the guests, touched by the memories, spoke of Iris's beauty on the day of their meeting. Admiring her appearance, he still kept in his memory her enchanting image, which caused delight and embarrassment. The maids took this story as touching, with bated sighs and shining eyes. Their hearts sank from the romantic tension of the situation, as if they were witnesses to a fairy tale. A young man with a cold gaze, convinced that Iris also had feelings for him, stood a little further away. But his thoughts remained unspoken, and in the depths of his eyes a strange combination of doubt and hope could be read. Against the backdrop of a window through which soft light shines, a man in an elegant suit thoughtfully turns away, clenching his fist to his face. His confident, "That's enough," sounds clear, as if summing up an important moment. Behind him, several maids, heads bowed, tensely catch his every word, waiting for further instructions. Inside the luxurious room, a man looks intent as he struggles with doubts. His gaze is tense, wondering if he has managed to convince the assembled crowd. The maids look at each other in confusion, some in surprise, others in alarm, trying to understand how convincing their master has been in his words. The two maids discuss the incident with excitement. One of them is amazed that their ploy worked, considering it too old-fashioned. The other, despite her joy, looks tense, as if she cannot believe in its success. The atmosphere of tense anticipation hides anxiety about the consequences. The servants are panicking as they prepare for Count Green's return. Upon hearing the announcement, they rush in different directions to put everything in order. Their faces are full of horror at meeting their master, emphasizing the Count's severity and their fear of his wrath. Count Green returns home, accompanied by his confidant. The maids greet him nervously, feeling the tension from his cold gaze. Their fear is heightened by the possibility of punishment for past mistakes, and the Count remains mysteriously silent. An elderly man appears at the estate, perplexed by the unexpected visit. His face reflects skepticism and suspicion. The guest finds himself in an unexpected situation, surprised that his long-forgotten solitude has been disturbed. Count Green decides to punish someone for lying. His cold gaze and slightly raised smile emphasize that he knows the deceivers. His words are full of hidden threat, showing that he is ready to act decisively. Count Green is calmly conversing with a man in a luxurious living room. He states that he wants to talk about Iris, and his manner emphasizes determination and authority. The interlocutor is startled and looks nervous, not understanding what to expect from this conversation. The man tries to explain something in a panic, but he is overcome by fear of the Count's wrath. His tense posture and confused expression indicate that he is cornered. The Count waits calmly, showing no emotion. The Count asks a direct question about what the man wants from his wife. His tone is strict, his gaze is piercing, and his pose emphasizes his dominant position. The atmosphere becomes even more tense, and the man loses his composure. The Count demands that the interlocutor sell him the lands he was going to give to the Duke. The Count's outstretched hand symbolizes his control over the situation, and the interlocutor looks stunned. Green's determination forces him to submit. In concluding the conversation, the Count demonstrates his undeniable power. His interlocutor remains depressed, realizing his defeat. Count Green leaves, leaving behind a sense of the inevitability of his decisions, emphasizing that everything is going according to his plan. The man, full of rage, screams in surprise at the audacity of Count Green. His indignation knows no bounds. He does not believe that such a turn of events is possible, and looks almost broken in the face of the impudent and confident aristocrat. Count Green offers a deal coolly and calmly, understating the value of the land. His predatory gaze emphasizes his self-confidence, while the interlocutor indignantly refuses, insisting on his right. Under the Count's gaze, the tension mounts. His piercing gaze seems to warn that he will not tolerate arguments. The atmosphere becomes ominous, and the interlocutor feels this pressure. The Count reminds us that the meeting was arranged to conclude a deal, hinting at the futility of trying to resist. The threatening confidence makes the opponent tremble, crushed in his impotence. Green's interlocutor explodes, declaring that Iris belongs to him. His voice is full of despair and resentment. He reproaches the Count for neglect and insists on his superiority despite his age. In an attempt to turn the situation around, the man accuses the Count of abusing his power. His anger and fury express his inability to accept his loss, but the Count remains calm and looks down on him. The Count answers with a slight smile, as if bidding farewell to the last attempts at persuasion. His tone seems dismissive, which only increases the feeling of helplessness in his opponent. Green's opponent continues to argue, gritting his teeth, claiming that Iris is only suffering from the Count's interference. His speech becomes increasingly emotional, despair taking over reason. Count Green mercilessly counters by exposing his opponent's weaknesses. He coldly assesses his character and inability to make Iris happy, while his words destroy his interlocutor's last hopes. Finally, Count Green suggests continuing the conversation elsewhere. His calm threat sounds no less convincing. The enemy is completely overwhelmed, realizing that he has lost this fight, not only in words but also in spirit. In a semi-dark room with brick walls, Count Green plays with a knife in cold blood, looking at his trembling interlocutor with disapproval. His calmness contrasts with the threat in the air. He makes it clear that behind his charming face, he hides toughness and readiness for decisive action. A man in an old-fashioned costume trembles with fear, clutching his head in his hands and cowering in the corner of the room. His shaking hands and look of complete panic show that he is afraid of losing not only his lands but possibly his life. Count Green tears away the last of his victim's dignity. His words are cold and strike at the heart. He says that he wanted to buy his lands, but unpleasant and offensive remarks changed everything, forcing him to move on to threats and actions. The frightened man tries to justify himself by claiming that his beloved is happy with him. The Count grinningly points out that this will not save him from his fate. The knife in his hands seems a more convincing argument than any words. The man is crying from humiliation, screaming about revenge and threatening to file a complaint. But his crying looks pathetic against the background of the impassive face of the Count, who understands perfectly well that his opponent is weak and does not pose a real threat. Count Green looks his victim straight in the eye and declares that he used his power to take his bride away from him. His voice is filled with contempt, and his gaze is icy. He tears apart the last of the trust by humiliating the man on his own territory. Tired of endless excuses and words, the Count notices that he talks too much. His tone hints at the end of the dialogue. The man, curled into a ball, understands that serious consequences await him. At this point, 3 new characters enter the room. Their appearance adds tension to the proceedings, and the expression on one of their faces, a mixture of surprise and caution, hints that the situation may take an unexpected turn. The Count, noticing the guests, mockingly leaves the victim alone with the new arrivals, saying that they are already acquainted. His gesture towards the trembling man shows that he is confident in his superiority and also that the fate of his interlocutor is decided. The man, having lost the last of his self-control, screams, demanding to be left alone. The new arrivals approach, their expressions becoming more and more threatening. The scene ends with a scream, leaving a feeling of inevitable retribution. Iris received word that the Viscount had agreed to sell his lands to Earl Green. She expressed her hope that all the paperwork would be sorted out. Her tone was confident, but in her heart she felt that it was no easy task to make this deal. Holding a cup of the aromatic drink, Iris reflected on what was happening. She was surprised that the Count had managed to persuade the Viscount to make such a difficult decision. This success seemed to her a significant step towards the realization of their plans. Approaching the huge black wolf with an icy gaze, Iris wondered if he could help take the lands from Viscount Hatches. Her heart wavered. Was she making the right decision to interfere with the fate of the Viscount in this way? Realizing the scale of the actions ahead, Iris sighed calmly. She noted that a start had been made, but there were many steps ahead. Her determination grew despite the uncertainty about the future prospects. Looking at the mines that had already lost their value, she realized that the disappearance of the Viscount's former wealth did not mean that these lands were useless. Her faith in the hidden possibilities of these territories grew stronger. Iris remembered how in a past life, Duke Whitlow had become rich after discovering a new treasure in the depths of these lands. This thought gave her determination. Now she intends to get these lands so as not to miss a fateful chance. Looking at her reflection, she firmly decided that she had to act quickly and uncompromisingly. Her internal monologue only strengthened her desire to finish the job at any cost. This was her only way forward. Iris asked James, her loyal assistant, to find one person. She emphasized the importance of this task, hinting that the success of their entire enterprise depended on it. His gaze reflected the seriousness of her words. James was given the task of tracking down a former employee of Duke Whitlow who had been exiled and was now in hiding. Iris knew that this man had important knowledge that could be the key to their plan. Iris confidently explained that without this person, their further plan related to the Viscount's lands was impossible. Her voice sounded firm, and her confidence in success was transmitted even to those around her, inspiring them to take action. In the hall, 3 maids whisper, discussing unexpected news. Their words about love and betrayal fill the air with mystery. Red-haired Gillette, watching from afar, feels that the conversation concerns her. Questions in her head are replaced by guesses, adding tension. Gilla sits confidently on the sofa and covers her smile with a fan. She is sure that this chaos will play into her hands. The woman understands that now the chance she has been waiting for so long has opened up before her. In another room, the maids are discussing the situation. They are shocked by what is happening and cannot find an explanation for what is happening. Each of them is stunned, the atmosphere is tense, and their emotions are conveyed through anxious glances. On the street, 2 girls are whispering animatedly. One is telling rumors. The information about the Countess shocks those around her, and the details cause a wave of surprise. People begin to build versions, adding new colors to this mysterious story. In a luxurious drawing room, several ladies are quietly conversing. Among them, the name Gillette is mentioned. They call her the flower of the Duke of Whitlow, which sounds both admiring and condemning at the same time. The mystery deepens. Sighs and words of regret fly through the air. The 2 women are indignant, discussing Gillette's actions. One of them even calls it a nightmare, not understanding how anyone could do such a thing. Rumors grow, drawing in even more people. Against the backdrop of a luxurious interior, a lady in a dark blue dress raises the topic of the Countess's strange behavior. She wonders if what is happening is really normal, hinting at the scandalous nature of the situation. The next conversation concerns Countess Green and her lover. One of the ladies expresses her bewilderment with gestures and exclamations. Her irritation underlines the growing indignation among those discussing this drama. In bright indignation, another woman in a red suit asks how Gillette could act so impudently. She bitterly reminds her that she is her brother's wife. Her emotions boil, and her words are accusatory. Brittany, a girl with long blonde hair, is clearly shocked. Suddenly, another woman enters the room, excitedly telling her the news. The shock on Brittany's face tells us that the story is taking a new, unexpected turn. Brittany looked at her interlocutor cheerfully, easily brushing off her words. Her carefree smile and confidence created the impression that she could not have any secrets. However, her friend, barely restraining her curiosity, tried to draw her attention to something important. The two girls were sitting on the couch, looking at the newspaper. Brittany was trying to understand with obvious bewilderment what had caused such interest in her friend. The fact that she was the center of attention suddenly stunned her. The friend excitedly read out the headline from the article claiming that Brittany was the Duke's flower. Brittany looked at her in bewilderment, trying to understand what was being said. Her bewilderment was mixed with slight irritation. On one of the pages of the newspaper there was a photo of a girl with pink hair and a lily in her hands. The article promised to reveal the secrets of her past, which made Brittany tense up. Intrigue surrounded their conversation. The information from the newspaper stated that the Duke's flower had received protection from the kingdom, which raised even more questions. The rumors became more and more confusing, causing excitement among both the girls and those around them. The article mentioned a mysterious marriage that no one knew anything about. The story described was full of secrets and cast a shadow on the heroine's reputation. Brittany began to wonder what was behind this article. Her friend wondered how Brittany could hide such things when she was always so open. But the tension between them only grew as they continued reading. Finally, it turned out that the rumors had spread much faster than the truth itself. The article revealed that Brittany had allegedly become the wife of Earl Green, which left her friend in shock. The friend wondered if Brittany had previously been engaged to Viscount Hutches. This unexpected turn of events led to a new round of questions and doubts, leaving more mysteries than answers. Brittany, barely holding back her emotions, remembered that her friend herself had previously claimed that she was crazy about the Viscount. However, she quickly justified herself by referring to the current circumstances, leaving her interlocutor completely confused. Brittany was determined to hide the truth that Earl Green himself had proposed to Iris to become his wife. She gritted her teeth and tried to suppress her anger, but the feeling of jealousy was tearing her apart from the inside, forcing her to look for ways to humiliate her rival. Brittany decided that the best way out was to convince everyone that Iris was romantically involved with Viscount Hutches. This man, with his rudeness and dubious reputation, would be the perfect figure for a scandal that could destroy Iris's reputation forever. Burrowing into her books, Brittany found old rumors that would back up her plan. These dirty rumors and hints would serve as her weapons. She felt a cold satisfaction that her plan was beginning to take shape. In her mind, she imagined how society would turn its back on Iris and Earl Green, realizing her wickedness would reject her forever. For Brittany, this would be a victory, and a spark of schadenfreude would flare up in her soul, fueling her determination. Discussing the rumors with her friend, Brittany laughed at the absurdity of the situation. Her companion admitted that all this could be just a fiction, but Brittany was sure gossip, put into action, will definitely do its job. The friend tried to figure out what exactly motivated Brittany in her hatred. She hinted at her mistrust of the Earl of Green's sister, Lady Henrietta, and her close relationship with Countess Nalani, considering them the source of all troubles. When Brittany heard that her friend knew nothing about what was going on, she was furious. It seemed that she had missed all the important events, which only fueled Brittany's desire to act more decisively and see her case through to the end. At the ball, Countess Nalani was the center of attention. The society quietly discussed rumors about her past, and Brittany enjoyed this spectacle. Iris, on the contrary, maintained her dignity, which irritated Brittany even more. While Iris went on a trip, she was accompanied by Count Green. She tried to prove to him that she was able to protect herself, but he was adamant. His support and confidence in her strength did not cause Brittany anything but envy and a thirst for a new blow. Brittany watched from the sidelines, ready to use any opportunity to destroy Iris. Her hatred grew stronger, and thoughts of revenge seemed to her the only way to find peace in this unequal rivalry. Iris looks away thoughtfully, worried that her requests may become a burden to the Count. She worries that her problems will create additional worries for him, but hides her doubts behind a mask of calm. The Count gently touches her ear, relieving the invisible tension with her gaze. He gently reminds her of his inexperience in family relationships, hinting that he is learning care and affection with her help. His touch becomes more confident. He gently brushes away strands of her hair, as if asking why she doubts his desire to be there. His words convince her that he perceives caring for her as a joy and not a burden. The slightly embarrassed Count notes her unusual choice of clothing. His gaze becomes slightly more intent, as if he is trying to figure out her intentions behind this decision. Iris calmly replies that she dressed so as not to stand out. She explains that she is tired of the rumors that surround her and wants to remain unnoticed to avoid further trouble. Iris admits that the false rumors hurt her. Her words sound firm, but her eyes betray her confusion. She tries to protect her feelings and create calm around herself. The Count watches her words and emotions carefully. He notices that despite her desire to remain in the shadows, she cannot remain unnoticed. Her presence is too strong for that. His voice softens slightly as he notes that Iris is impossible to ignore. The Count, mesmerized by her beauty, gives in to the moment and brings his hand to her face, emphasizing the strength of their connection. Tension arises between them when the Count remembers that Iris has not fulfilled one of his wishes. At the same time, their gestures become more personal, heightening the intimacy of the moment. The story ends with a scene where Iris loses her balance and falls, but the Count manages to catch her. This movement symbolizes his willingness to support her in any situation, strengthening their trust in each other. Iris, with pink hair and worried eyes, leaned over Count Green as if the sudden fall had caught them both by surprise. Her voice wavered as she tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. The Count, sitting on the floor, held her tightly around the waist, as if he was afraid that she would disappear, and their eyes met. Iris tried to keep her composure and moved closer, but inside she was raging. The Earl looked at her with determination and tenderness, firmly stating that this time he would not let her escape. The words were soft, but made her heart stop. In that moment, it was as if the barriers between them disappeared. The Count pulled Iris closer, wrapping his arms around her with unexpected strength, and she allowed herself to forget about everything for a moment. Their embrace was filled with tension and sincere emotions. Iris trusted this feeling, burying herself in his shoulder, and from outside a soft light permeated their world as if time had stopped. Iris feels slightly embarrassed when Count Green hugs her. His touch awakens unfamiliar feelings in her. She tries to cope with the awkwardness but feels her heart begin to beat faster. Iris whispers that she is ticklish, but Green looks at her confidently. Green pulls Iris closer, and the sudden movement makes her cry out in surprise. The girl loses her balance, her long pink hair falling out, creating a dramatic effect. Confusion and a nascent spark of trust are mixed in her gaze. Iris realizes that they are in a carriage, away from prying eyes. This realization causes her to experience internal conflict. She tries to remind herself that this is unacceptable, but her voice sounds uncertain. Her doubts clash with the magnetic presence of the Count. Count Green, as if reading her thoughts, gives in to an inner impulse. He sees no reason to stop. His confidence only grows stronger. His blue eyes sparkle in the semi-darkness, as if hypnotizing Iris and depriving her of the ability to resist. Iris feels his hands gently touch her waist. She freezes, but instead of fear, she feels warmth and tenderness. Her thoughts are confused, and the girl realizes that she cannot control her emotions when the Count is so close. His lips gently touch hers, and Iris is overwhelmed by a wave of feelings. She is lost in the moment, feeling every touch. Her consciousness is clouded, and the only thing that remains is pleasure and the feeling that everything is happening exactly as it should. Iris feels her body responding to his touch. Her face flushes and her breathing quickens. She finds it hard to comprehend that her will is giving way to the onslaught of emotions she has tried so hard to suppress. Thoughts about what to do next pop up in her head. Iris wonders how to deal with the situation that has taken her by surprise, but despite her inner doubts, she feels like she doesn't want to resist anymore. Suddenly, a memory from her past life hits her. Iris feels as if her mind is trying to warn her of something. These images flash before her eyes, leaving her confused and slightly shocked. Count Green, sensing her confusion, gently reassures her. His words seem sincere and filled with care. Iris catches his gaze and understands that despite the storm of emotions, she really feels good next to him. Iris, a girl with pink hair and violet eyes, listens to Count Green. He assures her that he will never do anything against her will, emphasizing that she can always refuse. The Count holds her in his arms, which creates a trusting and tender atmosphere between them. Iris, embarrassed and touched by the Count's words, thanks him, barely holding back her emotions. She feels warmth and sincerity in his embrace, and their mutual trust becomes more and more obvious. Iris remembers the words of her sister, who always said that a real man should protect a woman and not impose his power on her. These thoughts only strengthen her inner attachment to the Count, who corresponds to these principles. Iris learns that the Count has a younger sister. She is genuinely interested, asking him questions. Her genuine curiosity about the Count's family life creates even more closeness between them. Count Green smiles and admits that his younger sister has a complex and difficult character. This causes Iris a slight surprise. She tries to imagine what his sister might be like. Iris looks at the Count with surprise, her eyes filled with questions. She wants to know more about him and his life, but her interest is sincere, and without a hint of judgment. The heroes are presented with a scene with 4 men standing in front of the characters of animals: a lion, a panther, an eagle, and a deer. This scene symbolizes strength, cunning, wisdom, and nobility, possibly reflecting the characters of those present. A striking woman with a striking appearance and a determined character enters the room. She demands an explanation. Her presence immediately sets a tense tone. Iris feels a slight nervousness due to the sudden change in atmosphere. The woman reports that they are all in the same situation, revealing an unexpected fact. The Count's marriage was registered, and this news took everyone by surprise, including herself. The woman is angry and demands an immediate explanation from those present because she considers herself a member of the family. Her sharp emotions are emphasized by flashes of fire in the background, increasing the drama and her determination to find the truth. The girl with a stern expression stood before the people, who lowered their heads in apology. Their tension was palpable, and her voice was cold. They understood that before them stood an unyielding and demanding woman who would not tolerate mistakes. The memory of her filled the servants with fear. Her manner of dealing with them, especially in anger, was unyielding. She never called them by their names, replacing them with nicknames. This further emphasized the distance and her imperious nature. The girl continued her speech with a show of composure. She adjusted the decoration on her dress with a cold grace, as if emphasizing her power. It was important to her that discipline and respect were constant in her home. Her anger did not subside. She asked a direct question about Count Green. Her voice was tense. Iris's gaze pierced the air, emphasizing her disappointment in the absence of the right person, which made her lose her patience. Meanwhile, Count Green arrived at his destination. The carriage stopped in front of a majestic mansion. His gaze was reserved. A servant reported his arrival, ready to carry out another assignment. The Count gave Iris his hand. She smiled, but her gaze was attentive. Her confident face confused him. He had not expected to see her here. Iris admitted that she had long wanted to meet him in person. She looked genuinely intrigued, and her face expressed curiosity. Her manner remained reserved, but there was a warm note in her voice. The red-haired man couldn't hide his surprise when he saw Iris. His hands covered his face, but there was a nervous laugh in his voice. Her appearance was an unexpected test for him. Iris just smiled slightly, her violet eyes meeting his gaze. Her appearance was a surprise to him. The man tried to come to his senses, his voice betraying slight confusion. Iris addressed the man confidently, using his name. She remained friendly despite the tension of the moment. Earl Green stood next to her, watching the proceedings with an unperturbed expression. A man with a tired look named Gauger appears in a simple setting, recalling his past as the manager of the Duke of Whitlow's mansion. His appearance reflects a hard life, and his words emphasize the bitterness of memories. Gauger recalls his former life of wealth and luxury, which contrasts with his current situation. The image of the strict manager exacerbates his regret and sense of loss. In a room with simple furniture, the words are addressed to Lady Iris, who has become an adult and married the Earl of Green, the keeper of sacred relics. The past and the present collide in this calm environment. Iris meets with Gauger, expressing joy and gratitude for his kindness in the past. She touchingly takes his hands, emphasizing the importance of this meeting for her. Iris confesses to Huger that his treatment of her was a rare kindness in the Duke's household. She was worried about his fate after learning of his exile, which awakens strong emotions in Huger. Huger is not surprised by what happened, but his bitterness intensifies when Count Green appears in the background, as if emphasizing his superiority and confidence. Count Green quietly notes that Iris has endured far worse treatment than Huger, his gaze conveying a mixture of sadness and determination. Iris has assigned her trusted man to find Gauger. He fulfills the request by informing her of the former manager's location, which speaks of her care and respect. Iris, remembering her childhood, realizes how much time has passed since Huger's exile. Her determination to find him shows how important he was to her. Count Green reflects on the strangeness of the situation with restraint, immersed in his thoughts. His gaze expresses not only thoughtfulness but also internal doubts. Iris, a girl with pink hair and violet eyes, ponders the current events. She is happy to see that her interlocutor is okay, but she has an important request. This request becomes the culmination of her thoughts, where she prepares to express her determination and hope for his consent. Iris directly offers the man to become the manager of the Laventa mines. Her words sound confident and reasonable, despite the fact that this proposal causes surprise and doubt in him. She demonstrates faith in his abilities and hope for his support. The man expresses his doubts, since the mines used to belong to the Viscount. However, Iris, with a slight confidence, declares that they now belong to her. She asks him to take on this responsible role, from managing the workers to extracting minerals. He thanks her for her trust but refuses, considering himself unfit for such responsibility. He sees himself as just an ordinary man with a past that does not inspire confidence in the future. However, his words are full of embarrassment and regret. Iris replies that it doesn't matter who he is now, it matters who he can become. Her words prove to be a turning point, adding emotion and confidence to her call. The man thinks about her words, feeling inspired. She explains that she can only trust him with this task. Her confidence and sincerity literally light up the stage, pushing him to a decision. The man listens attentively, realizing her importance and responsibility. The man is amazed, remembering how timid and scared Iris was in the past. Now he sees her in front of him, strong, confident, and determined. Her transformation amazes him and makes him look at her in a new way. He realizes that Iris is looking at him with unwavering confidence. This confidence awakens in him respect and a desire to justify her trust. He reflects on how their roles have changed over time. The man, moved by Iris's words, swears that his life now belongs to her. He resolutely agrees to accept the proposal, promising to be worthy of her trust and expectations. His decision symbolizes the beginning of a new path. Iris is already on the street looking towards her interlocutor. Her look conveys gratitude and satisfaction. She understands that she made the right choice by entrusting such an important task to a person in whom she sees potential and strength. Iris and Earl Green meet at the entrance to the castle. The man listens with bewilderment to Iris, who categorically states that she does not want to let people from the Whitlow family into her house. She adds that in her castle there are already those whom she considers her own. The Count proposes a compromise. The new man will not live in the castle, but will work in the mines recruiting workers. Iris maintains her distance but agrees to this decision, making it clear that she wants to minimize the influence of outsiders on her life. Iris adds sharply that the Count's own will never be her people. Her words sound like a warning. She is not sure that she can trust those who serve another and not her. Her wariness makes the man think. The Count reflects on how his men are loyal to him but could easily betray her. Iris remains cold, showing that such guarantees do not satisfy her. The Count retreats into his thoughts, torn between duty and her words. The Count remembers the man whom Iris does not want to let into the house. This is Huger, once recognized even by the Emperor for his abilities, but fate deprived him of his former glory. The Count believes that he is necessary for managing the mines. In a tense situation, Iris touches the Count's face, reproaching him for interfering in her affairs. Her confidence and audacity shock the man. She makes it clear that there is no place in her life for control by a man, even one like him. After an emotional argument, Iris and the Count come to an agreement. He decides not to interfere anymore and just watch. This becomes a way for him to stay in touch with her but not to violate her personal boundaries. Meanwhile, a carriage arrives at the castle. The messenger delivers a letter, which causes confusion in Iris. The situation heats up again when attention turns to the contents of the message and its sender. Inside the carriage, Iris tells the Count that her sister is now in the castle. This news surprises the man, as it turns out she arrived only recently. Iris sees his reaction but remains calm. Iris explains that her sister has learned of her marriage and has come to see for herself. The tension in the carriage increases, leaving the Count in thought and Iris remaining confident in her decision. Iris remembers how her husband's family humiliated her. Her beauty always aroused envy, but inside she was met with coldness and contempt. They considered her useless and were not ashamed to show it. All this hatred left a mark on her soul. She was in pain from their attacks and especially from the constant accusations that she could not get pregnant. Their words caused her suffering, and Iris felt that her body had betrayed her, which only increased her pain and feelings of loneliness. Iris realizes that hatred surrounded her like a thick curtain. She suffered but decides to leave everything in the past. Now she has a new chance and she promises herself that she will do everything differently without fear of other people's judgment. The Green family turned out to be different. Iris anxiously wonders how she will be accepted in her new home. She is haunted by the fear that she will have to go through the same pain as before. However, in her heart, there is a glimmer of hope for the best. Count Green, sitting opposite Iris, wonders about the rumors that have ruined his reputation. He openly states that these rumors have humiliated him as a man. His confidence and easy smile make Iris wonder about his character. Iris wonders how much the rumors have hurt the Count. He admits that his power has been shaken, but it has not caused serious consequences. This sincerity calms Iris down a little, but she understands that this problem must be solved. She points out to the Count that the longer the rumors spread, the more it will harm his position. Iris offers to find the culprit of these events and sort out what happened, demonstrating her determination to help him. The carriage pulls up to a huge castle with high towers and beautiful architecture. This majestic view makes Iris think about the changes that await her and awakens in her a cautious optimism before meeting her new family. Inside the castle, work is in full swing. The maids are hurriedly preparing for the Count's return. The head maid gives orders, forcing everyone to speed up. Iris senses something different in this house than the cold reception of the past. New opportunities open up for Iris, and although she is still full of doubts, she decides that she will not let the past dictate her future. Her eyes are full of determination, and her steps sound firm as the beginning of a new chapter in her life. The red-haired girl scolds her subordinates, threatening them with punishment for failing to complete tasks on time. She demonstrates power, but causes hidden discontent among those around her. The woman and man watch her behavior with displeasure. The woman sarcastically calls the redhead Nathan, making it clear that she is acting too self-confident. The woman wonders who this red-haired girl is, holding herself like a mistress. They explain to her that this is Gillette, the personal maid of Iris, the mistress of the house. The question arises whether her arrogance is justified. The woman's discontent grows when she sees Gillette ordering people around him with an unyielding air. She believes that a simple maid should not behave so provocatively. The woman expresses irritation, wondering how a maid with such manners can manage the staff. She clearly does not respect Gillette and sees her actions as incompetent. Other shortcomings surface. The woman recalls the maid's terrible hearing and her blunders. Her dissatisfaction grows into open irritation. The tense moment is relieved by the arrival of Iris and her escort. This introduces a new dynamic. The atmosphere changes to the anticipation of meeting the hostess. Iris gracefully leaves the carriage, attracting attention. Her sophistication and status are emphasized by those around her, ready for her return. The woman carefully watches her every step. The woman watches Iris with curiosity, wondering about her importance in this house. Her interest is reinforced by the recent news she read on the way. Meanwhile, Iris confirms with a slight smile that she is the most popular person in the area. Her confidence contrasts with the tense atmosphere, adding intrigue to what is happening. Three girls discuss the situation. The central character, Iris, expresses displeasure, convinced that someone is trying to defame her name. Outwardly, she maintains her composure, but the tension is felt especially among the women around her. Iris shows confidence, arguing that no one in this place would dare to openly humiliate her. Her gaze is full of determination, hinting that she will easily deal with any intrigue. The woman in black, the sister of one of the participants' husband, interrupts the conversation. She looks at the situation coldly and attentively, causing Iris to be slightly surprised by her unexpected appearance. The moment of the wedding ceremony is shown. This is an illustration of how most marriages are made for convenience. It sets the tone for reflections on the fictitiousness of feelings that echo current events. Iris wonders why she never shared her thoughts on this matter. She suddenly seems to realize that she has long forgotten about romance and attraction, withdrawing into herself and her experiences. Count Green, sitting thoughtfully at the table, admits that he has overlooked something important. His mood shows internal tension and an attempt to find a solution, against which his assistant expresses dissatisfaction with the Count's slowness. Count Green is lost in his thoughts, reflecting on the moment he first saw Iris. Her face still haunts his memory, making him forget about everything else. The Count's assistant is outraged by his inattention and emotional vulnerability. He condemns his behavior, but also emphasizes that he knows about his habits and character, understanding the reasons for this state. Count Green admits that the situation with Iris has caused inconvenience, but he intends to discuss it later. His easy excuse irritates those present, who do not understand such detachment. One of the participants directly states that Iris is unlikely to want to talk to him. His words highlight the complexity of the situation, and Count Green is left at a loss to find a way to establish contact. Earl Green's sister is overcome with anger when she learns that a woman has appeared in the house. She cannot contain her indignation and demands an explanation. Her cries are filled with emotion as she feels deceived and excluded from important family affairs. The servants are confusedly discussing how to tell the Count about his sister's indignation. Her words were full of indignation and they do not know what to do. The Count, with his head down, listens to them with obvious irritation, but tries to remain calm. One of the servants insists that the Count inform his father of this situation. Despite his slight fatigue, Count Green agrees, but does so with some reluctance. He understands the importance of family peace, but his indifference to his sister's demands is noticeable. The Count meets with Iris and apologizes to her for the unpleasant situation. Her calm and goodwill help to diffuse the situation. She assures that she understands the circumstances and their communication takes on a warm, supportive character. Iris, walking next to the Count, expresses regret about the need to meet his sister. The Count is slightly embarrassed but responds to her words softly, trying not to focus on the difficulties that have arisen in their lives. Iris wants to talk to the Count's sister, but first she says she has something important to say. Her gaze is full of determination and confidence that this conversation will change the attitude of those around her. The Count, although tense, supports Iris with his presence. The Count tells Iris about his family. In addition to his sister, he has a younger brother who holds a special place in his heart. He admits that his sister can be capricious, and this sometimes creates problems in his relationship with her. Iris agrees that the Count's sister is indeed a difficult person. The servant, who has been closely observing their conversation, unexpectedly supports this opinion. Such unanimity makes Iris smile slightly, showing that they find a common language. The servant offers to accompany Iris to the Count's sister, but warns that the conversation may not be easy. The Count and Iris exchange glances, realizing that a difficult meeting awaits them, requiring tact and self-control. Iris muses that it is unusual for nobles to keep servants so close to them. However, the atmosphere of the Count's house seems different, more trusting. Her thoughts show that she is slowly beginning to understand the Count's family and their values. Iris and Count Green stood with another man with golden hair. Their confidence and calmness contrasted with the tense atmosphere around them. Iris restrained herself as she wondered why everyone was so worried, but noticed that she was actually scared. She instinctively clutched the hem of her dress, feeling fear take over her mind. She tried not to show her emotions, but the tension still left its traces in her movements and gaze. The Golden Man tried to calm Iris down, telling her not to pay attention to Lady Henrietta's words. His sincerity brought her some comfort, but she continued to feel discomfort inside. Iris, smiling slightly, promised to try not to be offended, although deep down she knew that it would be difficult for her to remain indifferent to Henrietta's harsh words. Count Green was silent, but his gaze was full of support. The Golden Man's embarrassment increased dramatically when he accidentally called Iris his sister. He immediately began to panic, not understanding how this could have happened and what he should do now to explain his words. Count Green remained unperturbed as he looked around at the assembled group, radiating calm. His manner and self-confidence made those around him feel that the situation was under control, despite the obvious tension. Iris, sitting at the table, thought about how confidently Lady Henrietta held herself in the role of hostess. She radiated such power that Iris thought for a moment that the castle belonged to her. When Count Green interrupted her thoughts, he asked her to remain silent so as not to aggravate the situation. Iris nodded, trying not to disturb the harmony of the situation, although the tension continued to grow. Lady Henrietta said with a wide smile that she wanted to talk to Iris, calling her sister-in-law. The words caused a stir among those gathered, especially the golden-haired man, who almost fell over in surprise. Iris calmly introduced herself to everyone, announcing her engagement to Earl Green. She tried to look confident, even though she could feel her heart pounding at the unexpected turn of events. Iris, a girl with soft pink hair and deep violet eyes, introduces herself to her new friend Henrietta, asking her to call her simply Ria. The atmosphere around her is conducive to friendly communication, and the warm smile on Ria's face makes the moment even more sincere. Their first contact awakens a feeling of ease and trust. Henrietta is clearly cheerful and perky, offering Iris an unusual form of address, adding a touch of mischief to the conversation. Iris is slightly embarrassed, but her surprise only enhances the atmosphere of friendliness. Their dialogue turns into a game where bright emotions and sincere laughter bring the two girls closer together. During the common meal, Henrietta tells a story that surprises everyone. Iris looks at her interlocutor with interest, and Count Green, sitting at the table, clearly listens to her with wary attention. A small comic scene becomes the center of attention, adding lightness to the strict atmosphere. The conversation mentions that the Count seemed never to marry, which makes Henrietta laugh. The Count tries not to give in to jokes, but the tension in the air grows. Iris comes between them. Her gentleness helps smooth things over. At this point, details of their relationship and character are revealed. Henrietta suddenly asks Iris why she chose Count Green. The question sounds straightforward, but it awakens sincere feelings in the girl. Iris falls silent for a second, and her face reveals touching experiences. This creates an emotional depth to the scene, revealing the heroine's inner world. Iris replies that she likes his character, even though it is difficult. She shares her thoughts about how the Count, despite his coldness, has a strong will and hidden kindness. This moment makes their conversation more personal, showing her sincere affection for the man. Iris notices that the Count looks sullen when she recalls how he didn't tell his parents about the wedding. She says this with a slight irony, which makes Henrietta laugh. But the Count tries to keep a serious face, which makes the scene even funnier. Someone in the conversation asks to be polite, but Henrietta continues to provoke. Iris, sitting opposite, remains calm, and her gentle gaze speaks of her readiness to maintain balance in any situation. Her gentleness seems to balance Henrietta's energy. Iris openly declares that her feelings for the Count are simple. She truly loves him. This moment makes everyone fall silent, and the atmosphere at the table becomes more soulful. There is sincere affection in Iris's eyes, and her confession sounds warm and confident. She notices in him features that she admires: sky-blue eyes, masculine features, a deep voice. Iris realizes that the Count's laughter becomes a cure for all her worries. Her heart is full of desire to devote herself to him, and this love gives her strength and confidence. Iris, lost in her thoughts, looks thoughtfully into the distance. She recalls a recent event when her wound could have left a scar. Then Count Green approached her with concern and offered to treat the cut so that no traces remained. This gesture touched the girl to the depths of her soul. Later, Iris sits in the magnificent hall and looks at Count Green. The memories of that day warm her heart. She understands that it was his kindness and attention that made her see him as not just a noble man, but a person who is truly dear to her. A woman with a serious expression sits nearby and begins to discuss Iris's tastes. She says that her choice seems strange, but still admits that this does not change the essence. The woman's tone is slightly sarcastic, but Iris remains calm. The young man at the table, hearing the news of their imminent wedding, is surprised and asks if their love was really so strong that everything happened so quickly. His reaction causes a slight smile on the face of Iris, who looks at her interlocutor with restraint. Count Green, next to Iris, expresses concern that she did not warn her family in advance. His gaze is serious but also tender. Iris responds with a calm, confident look, clearly not regretting her decision. An awkward silence falls over the family dinner. Iris's family members look puzzled by what is happening, but no one dares to break the silence first. Iris and Earl Green exchange glances, preparing for possible reproaches. Soon, one of the women stands up and announces that until the ceremony is held, their union can still be considered not final. Her words cause conflicting emotions among those present, but Iris remains calm. Iris and Count answer that they just signed without loud celebrations and ceremonies. Such a statement causes surprise, and some even begin to be slightly indignant, discussing their haste and unusual decision. One of the women's reactions becomes more emotional. Her voice gets louder and her face becomes irritated. She openly expresses her displeasure, reproaching Iris and Count Green for their rash actions. As if to confirm her emotions, a majestic mansion is shown outside the window, where loud exclamations are heard. The atmosphere in the house is tense, but Iris and Count Green remain calm and ready to defend their decision. Count Green looks at the woman holding the drink with distrust. She seems thoughtful and looks away. Her confidence and slight smile create an air of mystery. She wonders if her plans can really be revealed, fueling interest in her intentions. The Count, moving away from the table, looks intently at his interlocutor. He expresses doubt in her kindness to Ari, emphasizing her insincerity. The woman, slightly offended by his tone, remains calm, answering evasively and reservedly, which arouses even more suspicion in him. The woman leans back in her chair, smiling slightly. Her attitude suggests nonchalance, but her words are laced with sarcasm. She emphasizes that the Count has nothing to fear from her friendship with Ari, but her manner of speaking only heightens the tension. She gently turns the glass in her hands and thoughtfully says that she wants to understand how suitable Ari is for the Count as a wife. Her words sound like a challenge, although she adds that she herself is not sure about this, leaving intrigue in the air. Her gaze becomes cunning and she leans on her hand, drawing attention to the real problem. She clearly understands more than she says, and does not hide the fact that she is manipulating the conversation. The Count is silent, but his expression becomes more and more tense. The Count clutches his glass and asks her if she knows about the rumors surrounding his wife. His voice is reserved, but his gaze is suspicious. He clearly expects an answer that will put everything in its place, but he himself looks worried. The Count looks down, his eyes blue and cold as ice. He seems to be deep in thought, realizing that the rumors may be just the tip of the iceberg. His tension is reflected in his pursed lips and facial expression. The woman describes Irie, indicating that her half-sister had a hand in the rumors. She emphasizes that the further the events develop, the worse it will become. Her confident tone makes the Count think about how he can fix the situation. She offers a way out of the situation, adding a hint of irony to her voice. Her proposal sounds simple: prove everyone wrong. She looks at the Count with confidence, emphasizing that as his sister she will always support him in any situation. The developing intrigue ends with papers swirling in the air and discussions being heard around. She notes that the Count's envious people have begun to look down on him and suggests that he take steps to regain his superiority. Her cunning plan is only just beginning to unfold. Count Green, holding a glass, watches the conversation coldly. Next to him, a woman with a determined expression on her face talks about plans to organize a luxurious wedding, as if trying to convince him of something important. The tension in the air is felt even without words, hinting at the internal conflict of the characters. Iris, tired of the bustle, finds rest under the blossoming sakura. Her graceful figure and relaxed expression convey moments of peace. She realizes how tired she is of the guests and enjoys this rare moment of peace in the shade of the trees. Iris's sister appears next to her, cheerfully addressing her with a request to which Count Green responds with a restrained smile. This scene is filled with lightness and warmth despite the internal contradictions between the characters hidden under a layer of friendliness. Iris holds an ancient book in her hands, her gaze focused. She seems detached from what is happening around her. The book, with its worn pages and ornaments on the cover, hints at its importance. Every detail emphasizes the girl's desire to learn something secret. Leafing through the book, Iris discovers a story about the beastmen who were banished from the kingdom long ago. The black and white illustrations seem to come to life on the pages, enhancing the drama and making one think about the injustice that happened in those distant times. The story of the deceived and slandered Saint Benedict, who would become pope, is fascinating. In the illustrations, he is depicted under the oppression of the crowd, and his red robes symbolize blood and betrayal. The story gains momentum, revealing the terrible events of the past. It turns out that Benedict was a beastman. The silhouette of his beastly nature hidden under a human mask becomes a key detail. People living in ignorance could not accept the truth that their leader was not like them. The story leads to the rebellion of the beastmen and their fight for equal rights. The illustrations convey chaos and fury, and the bloody background emphasizes the desperation of these creatures. Iris realizes the parallels between those events and her reality. Benedict's fate is sad. As a mouse beastman, he faced hatred that stemmed from prejudice. His unwillingness to endure evil highlights the injustice of a world where his position determined how he was treated. Iris is shocked to realize that the humans rejected a beastman as pope because of prejudice. Her thoughts are filled with questions. How could such a harmless creature as a mouse cause such great fear? Her eyes reflect despair and a willingness to rethink her views. Iris studies an old book and comes across a surprising story about Saint Benedict. This man was honest and tried to bring peace, but his story clearly makes her doubtful. Benedict was rejected by those around him, considering him strange and different from others. People surrounded him with accusations and reproaches, attributing to him traits that he did not have. The crowd saw Benedict as a dirty rat, unworthy of being a servant of God. In their eyes, he was a symbol of sickness and evil, which forced him to hide his true nature. Loneliness and rejection became Benedict's constant companions. He was surrounded by the darkness of misunderstanding, and even the light of faith could not dispel this darkness. The general contempt became a difficult test for Benedict. Even his mentor turned away from him, betraying his trust, which made the pain unbearable. However, deep down, Benedict kept the faith and began to gather around him like-minded people who were ready to fight for the truth. His willpower was inspiring despite past disappointments. Iris is lost in thought as she sits in the shade of the trees. She ponders the story of Benedict, trying to find parallels with her own experiences and questions about justice. A man suddenly appears, finds Iris and speaks to her. His appearance interrupts her thoughts and prompts new thoughts about the meaning of truth and support. The man suggests a walk, opening the door to new revelations. Iris looks at him with surprise but does not reject the offer, as if sensing that something important awaits them ahead. Surrounded by blossoming trees, Iris and Count Green walk arm in arm. The Count looks reserved, but Iris smiles, saying something warm and sweet, mentioning that someone close to them affectionately calls him by a certain name. Green listens to her, but his expression remains thoughtful. Iris laughingly continues to share her thoughts, praising how beautiful the nickname sounds. She notices that Green is a little embarrassed by this, but he answers her with restraint. Iris asks why this nickname was given to him, but the Count evades the answer, remaining calm but slightly tense. The Count reminisces about his childhood. He talks about his rare gift of being able to transform into a beast from birth, which set him apart from others who could only change their appearance as they grew older. As he reminisces, he realizes that his parents accepted him for who he was, but he still felt isolated. Iris listens to his memories with understanding, looking at him with warmth. She understands that there were many difficulties in his growing up. Green says that only after some time did he begin to notice how many people avoided him because of his peculiarities, despite the apparent calmness of those around him. The Count admits that this realization was one of the hardest things in his life. He shares his feelings when his existence brought more fear than joy. Iris, sitting next to him, listens attentively to his words, expressing support with her gaze. Iris, noticing his sad tone, tries to lift his spirits. However, Green's thoughts return to his childhood fears and pain. He remembers how Kay, probably a person close to him, also avoided him. An inner voice reminds him of old grievances. Green shares that as a child he was often in the form of a wolf. Because of his behavior, he became the butt of jokes. He ate and slept too much, becoming carefree and clumsy. Iris laughs at the picture, trying to lighten the atmosphere with a joke. As they continue walking, Iris apologizes for not knowing about his past and the reasons for his nickname. She seems lost in thought, and Green also becomes more relaxed, trying to switch their conversation to less painful topics. The Count decides to explain to her that being a beastman, he always feels danger around him. Iris listens attentively, trying to understand his logic. She wants to show that she is not afraid of him despite his dark thoughts. To ease the tension a little, Iris hands Green a piece of fruit, emphasizing that they are now in the same boat and she is not going to back down. She adds that there have been many nicknames, and now he can leave the past behind and focus on their future. Count Green hands Iris a ripe fruit, and her surprised look expresses indecision. A premonition is born in her soul that this gesture carries a special meaning. The blossoming trees around create an atmosphere of spring magic, as if maintaining the intrigue of the moment. The Count resolutely confesses his feelings, proposing to Iris to marry him. His words are full of sincerity, and the petals falling around emphasize the romance of the situation. Iris freezes. Considering his proposal, her heart is tormented by doubts. Through her outward calm, Iris expresses confusion, wondering why he decided to talk about marriage. She says that the topic does not interest her, but behind her stern gaze, confusion and perhaps an internal conflict are hidden. The Count looks at the fruit in his hands as if searching for answers in its shape and color. His expression is a mixture of sadness and determination. He is ready to fight for her trust. Iris, however, seems firm in her answer, but her gaze speaks volumes. Iris looks up at the sky as if hiding her emotions. She thinks about the fate of the beastmen and their struggle to choose. Her voice sounds sad, as if these thoughts touch on something personal. In that moment, she realizes how important this confession has become for her. She ponders justice and who deserves to be punished for causing her suffering. Her thoughts are confused, but she begins to understand that her cold refusal of the Count was caused by a fear of trust and love. Finally, Iris steps forward and accepts Count Green's offer. Her answer is quiet, but there is determination in her voice. At that moment, they are sealed by a kiss, and the gentle breeze that carries the petals away becomes a symbol of their new chapter. The hall is filled with the joyful cry of Iris's sister, who is delighted to learn of the Count's proposal. She fills the space with her emotions, sincerely happy for Iris, and confirms that her sister's happiness is most important to her. Iris wonders how her sister found out about what happened, but gets no answer. Her sister enthusiastically declares that she will arrange a luxurious wedding for them. Her excitement and inspiration infect everyone around her, filling the atmosphere with joy and anticipation. Iris tries to sort out her thoughts while her sister makes plans. Her gaze is directed to the future, where a new life awaits her next to the Count. With each passing moment, her heart fills with confidence that she made the right choice. Iris, with a thoughtful expression on her face, ponders who will take on the difficult matter that is being discussed. She looks a little confused, but at the same time her eyes express determination. The situation requires her personal involvement, and she understands that she cannot stay away. Her friend smiles and notes that Iris has never been married and that this may create certain difficulties. However, she assures that she can help because she has an experienced married friend who will be the ideal advisor for such an important event. Iris asks which friend exactly they are talking about. The friend, beaming with confidence, says that this is her best friend with whom they can organize a truly incredible ceremony. This brings relief to Iris and inspires hope. Iris, sitting on the sofa, asks a clarifying question about the arrival time of the important guest. Her calm and confidence emphasize that she is ready for the upcoming events. The spacious, bright room creates an atmosphere of solemnity and anticipation. The answer comes quickly. The guest will arrive very soon. It is explained that his arrival is connected with recent rumors that require clarification. The high towers of the castle in the background add grandeur to the moment. A symbolic image of hands surrounded by a glow appears in the frame. This emphasizes the importance of the upcoming event. From the text, it becomes clear that a priest from the kingdom must arrive at the castle, whose presence is of decisive importance. A few days later, in a rich room with heraldic symbols, recent events are discussed. Count Green is clearly worried about the rumors that have spread throughout the country, and this affects his mood and plans. Iris and the Count discuss the importance of preserving the reputation of their family as the guardians of the relics. The atmosphere at the table is serious, emphasizing the importance of not making mistakes in the current situation. The Count expresses his displeasure at his father's interference in his personal affairs. He is outraged that rumors about his wife have become the talk of the country, believing that marriage is exclusively his business and does not require approval. The conversation takes on a more tense tone. One of the interlocutors becomes indignant, reminding us that family help was vital in the past. This underlines the importance of the ties of tradition and responsibility to the relics. In a room with a luxurious interior, Count Green, a man with dark hair and blue eyes, looks calm and slightly mysterious, uttering a sarcastic remark that interrupts the flow of thoughts of the interlocutor. His tone hints at fatigue from meaningless conversations, which adds tension to the atmosphere. Sitting in a relaxed pose with a cup of tea, he stops his interlocutor, expressing disagreement with his speech. The Count reminds him that their family sacrifices their lives to protect sacred relics, emphasizing how seriously he takes his mission and legacy. The Count's gaze turns cold and focused when he mentions that their family is the eternal guardians of the relics. His words sound like an oath, obliging his interlocutor to consider the significance of their task. The worry in his eyes underlines the pressure he is under. The interlocutor is clearly nervous and tries to justify his actions on behalf of his influential father. However, his attempt to convince the Count fails because the conversation turns to arbitrary decisions that undermine their duty to the relics. The camera pans to a blood-stained photo of the girl lying on the table. The words that the father did not approve of this union add to the drama. The image of the girl contrasts with the dark scene, hinting at the tragic connection between them. The Count thoughtfully studies the photo and understands that his father intends to divorce him from this girl. The atmosphere is tense because behind this decision lies not only personal hostility, but also religious considerations that dictate their lives. The father proposes to the Count to marry another woman who fully complies with their faith. This proposal, filled with cold rationality, collides with the inner protest of the Count himself, who increasingly doubts his true motives. The interlocutor confirms his father's words, which makes the Count plunge into deep thought. His suspicions grow stronger because such cruelty is not typical for the head of the family. He begins to realize that there is another player behind this plan. The Count's gaze turns icy as he realizes that someone is secretly manipulating the situation. His determination to find out the truth only grows stronger, because at stake is not only his fate, but also the honor of their family. Against the backdrop of the majestic building, the Pope looks majestic, but his words and actions hint at a hidden game. The Count understands that it is his duty to find the truth while others remain in the dark. Count Green, worried by the rumors, wonders what will happen if the information published in the newspapers turns out to be a lie. His face expresses anxiety as he tries to comprehend the situation. The realization of the possibility of betrayal causes him strong indignation, and at the same time doubts that are visible in his confusion. The Count panics at the accusations against his wife Iris. He steps back, defending his position, but the tension in the room rises. The man opposite presses, pointing out the absurdity of the rumors. The Count tries to justify himself by pointing to the newspaper publications, but his confidence begins to crumble. His interlocutor abruptly interrupts the Count's justifications, explaining that the published articles are mere speculations designed to make him credulous. The Count cannot resist logic, but continues to defend Iris. His confusion turns into rage as he feels the lies of those around him breaking his convictions. The Count emotionally declares that his marriage is a sacred vow before God, and only he can judge his decisions. However, the excitement does not leave him. He is internally ready to accept the consequences if the rumors turn out to be true, but sees in this only humiliation before those who want to destroy his life. The Count mentally decides that if the accusations turn out to be false, he will not allow his family's honor to be defiled. A plan of action aimed at restoring justice matures in his head. His resolve strengthens and his face reflects a threat to those who dared to insult his wife. He is convinced that Papa should personally apologize to Iris and confirm their marriage. Memories of Papa's arrogance and disdain fuel the Count's resolve. He vows to uphold his family's honor no matter what resistance he may encounter. Iris sits in a cozy room with a thoughtful expression on her face, holding a cup in her hands. She is calm, but her eyes reflect the weariness of all the accusations. She reflects on the Count's words, feeling both gratitude and anxiety for his decisive actions. Iris notes that the Count always manages to surprise her with his actions. Her thoughts are filled with hope that justice will prevail. However, she understands that the fight will be difficult. Her violet eyes are filled with confidence that love and truth can overcome all obstacles. Iris remembers how Papa didn't even bother to show up at the Emperor's wedding, sending only a formal letter. Now she is sure that the Count will make him not only apologize, but also acknowledge their union. This memory only strengthens her faith in her husband's determination. The Count decides that he will not stop until he restores the honor of Iris and his family. He is ready to meet his father and demand justice. His gaze is full of determination, and behind his back, the shadow of his own greatness seems to grow. He vows to protect his love and punish the guilty. Iris is a girl with pink hair and violet eyes sitting at the table with a cup of aromatic tea. She thinks about how her husband made a bold step, inspiring her to take action. The warmth of the tea and inner determination give her confidence to move forward. She studies the letter carefully, considering her next step. Her slight smile and the glint in her eyes betray excitement mixed with determination. Iris realizes that the time has come to act on her goal. In the center of the city, discussions are raging about the upcoming banquet, which the Countess has opened even for commoners. The streets are alive with conversations, and rumors about the event spread like wildfire, arousing curiosity among the residents. Commoners at the market are excitedly discussing whether to attend the banquet. Some are afraid of possible problems, others are hoping for a chance to see high society. The intrigue is growing, and the anticipation of the event fills the atmosphere with tension. Groups of people continue to discuss the banquet. Some see it as an opportunity, others fear gossip and scandal. Meanwhile, Iris considers how best to use the event for her plans. At this time, the house is discussing the possibility of attending a banquet. The servants are animatedly exchanging opinions, impressed by the rumors about the head maid. Their enthusiasm emphasizes the scale of the importance of the event. The servants are in anticipation, Having heard that the entrance to the banquet will be free, they are inspired and are burning with desire to see everything with their own eyes. This event becomes the main topic of discussion. The servants are excited by the prospect of meeting the head maid, discussing her authority and participation in the banquets. Their emotions underscore the importance of the event, even for the lower classes. Iris watches the proceedings, remaining focused on her plans. She realizes that the banquet is a key moment to establish her position and show herself in a new light. In the evening, the castle is shining with light. Iris is preparing for the banquet, and gossip around her decision is growing. She is confident in herself and her actions despite the opinions of others. Everything is going according to her plan. Iris proudly raises her head and declares her intention to shine at the banquet as a Wisconsin rather than a maid. She looks confident and majestic, demonstrating her determination to change her position. Her friends react to this with playful respect, lightly teasing Iris for her seriousness. One of the maids, outraged by the arrogance of another girl, complains about her arrogance and reproaches the others for being too soft towards her. The atmosphere in the room heats up when the discussion develops into an argument about how to behave with such people. The mistress of the house receives a maid named Christina with restraint, who reports on the results of an inspection among the maids. She tries to speak calmly, emphasizing the importance of her message and creating the impression of a person accustomed to control over the situation. The question of the maid's mood becomes the main topic of conversation. They are pleased with what is happening, but behave with restraint, aware that their actions may be under close scrutiny. This adds tension to the overall tone, but leaves room for intrigue. Christina asks if there is any more news and reports rumors from the city. Iris's attention is riveted by the mention of the upcoming banquet, which becomes a general topic of discussion. The heroine remains thoughtful, realizing that the situation could greatly affect her reputation. Iris learns that the rumors about her have spread even more. She maintains a calm exterior, but her eyes are filled with concern. This moment underlines how important it is for her to be in control of the situation she finds herself in. The maid, feeling unfair, wonders how people can believe rumors without evidence. Her emotional reaction causes others to try to calm her down. However, the tension in the room continues to rise, reflecting the complexity of the situation. Iris ponders how the arrogance of others influences events. She decides to throw a banquet to show her dignity. This move becomes her response to gossip, reflecting her strategic thinking and determination. The basket of fruit that is shown to the heroine has a symbolic meaning. Iris thinks that everything must happen on time, otherwise the value and result can be lost. Her thoughts are full of metaphors reflecting her internal struggle. At the end, Iris, like a dancing shadow, demonstrates her grace and strength. She talks about how important it is to wait for the right moment, otherwise everything can fall apart. Her confidence is reinforced by the determination to show everyone her true nature. Count Green had something special planned for the perfect evening. His maids immediately began preparations, realizing the importance of the upcoming event. In one of the rooms filled with slight chaos, the tension reached its peak. One of the assistants was furiously trying to choose the best accessory for the mistress, not holding back her emotions. Her friend was persuading her to calm down, fearing that their screaming would attract the attention of the count. However, choosing jewelry was not easy. The energetic maid was rushing around discussing which accessory would suit Countess Iris Green best. It was her first official appearance, and everything had to be perfect. She laid out the jewelry and pointed eagerly at the exquisite necklaces and bracelets, her energy bubbling over, and her friend remaining patient but slightly overwhelmed by her enthusiasm. The idea of choosing a decoration turned into a heated discussion. The maid tried to compare two elegant accessories, while her colleague demanded that she put everything back. Despite the slight chaos, preparations continued. The maids reassured each other, emphasizing that they were trying to make the Countess look her best. At this time, Count Green appeared in the luxurious hall, elegant and confident. He asked where Iris was, clearly preparing for an important moment. The maids explained that the Countess was changing her clothes. The Count decided to personally choose the jewelry for her, leaving the girls time to complete the preparations for the banquet. When one of the maids tried to object, her friend cleverly shut her mouth, not allowing the Count to interrupt. They decided to quickly complete the final preparations. Having gathered their courage, the maids set off with a smile to carry out their final assignments, and the Count, pleased with their efforts, looked after them with a slight grin. In a hall decorated with a luxurious chandelier, Count Green looks at Iris with a slight smile, calling her name. His confidence and sophistication create an atmosphere of trust, hinting at the importance of their meeting. Iris, dressed in a delicate blue dress, is surprised by his appearance. Her shining eyes reveal joy and slight confusion because his visit was unexpected but pleasant for her. The Count notes Iris's extraordinary beauty, adding that she is especially beautiful today. She shyly replies that she had doubts about whether the dress would suit her, but now her gaze radiates gratitude. As their conversation unfolds, Iris asks about the other two characters who are not present in the room. The Count, with a slight grin, explains that he sent them to prepare for the banquet, making the moment more personal. The Count shows attention to detail by gently touching Iris's hair, noting that he will choose the decorations for her look himself. This gesture emphasizes his caring and desire to control the situation. He takes out an elegant case with a decoration, a pearl necklace that perfectly emphasizes Iris's tenderness. She is surprised by his taste, but is clearly pleased with his choice. The Count offers to put the jewelry on Iris himself, adding a little playfulness to their conversation. There is a slight chemistry between them that strengthens the bond. He reproaches her for her silence about important things, noting that even their mutual friend does not tell him anything. Iris, pressing her hands to herself, feels awkward from his words. The Count pauses, admitting that Iris is influencing him more than he expected. His voice becomes more serious, and his eyes flash with conflicting emotions. Iris is stunned when he mentions James' appearance, which she should not know. Her face betrays fear of being exposed, hinting at the hidden secrets that bind their destinies. Iris, with pink hair and violet eyes, stood in front of the mirror feeling how Count Green fastened the necklace on her neck. His gestures were soft, but his gaze was studying. She was silent, hiding her thoughts, but doubts were seething inside. The Count, as if feeling her excitement, softly said that someday she herself would tell him everything. Iris thought about his words, looking at the reflection. The thought of whether she would be able to reveal her secrets tormented her. She was afraid to acknowledge the past that she had already lived. Her gaze became focused as she mentally asked herself, would she have the strength to do this one day? Moments from her past life appeared in her memory. Iris remembered how it all began, with her birth as if from a glowing cocoon. Her memories were mixed with images of childhood, but one thing was clear: she had lived this life before. The realization of this was frightening, but also empowering. She remembered her death. That moment was filled with pain, but also relief. Iris understood that despite all this, it was only the end of one path. Her fate gave her a second chance, a new turn where she could correct mistakes, but she also realized that this was associated with risks. Iris wondered who would believe her words about reincarnation. She understood that telling about it would cause bewilderment or even fear. She did not yet have the power or strength to protect herself from possible consequences, but the desire to change her fate only grew stronger. Her thoughts were interrupted by the Count's touch. He quietly advised her to cast aside her doubts. His voice was soothing, and his gestures were caring. The Count gently kissed her shoulder, making Iris forget her worries for a moment. She shuddered, but his touch gave her a feeling of protection. The Count reminded her that now was not the time for doubt. He hugged her, instilling confidence. Iris felt the warmth of his care envelop her. He confidently led her, making it clear that together they would cope with any difficulties, and she gradually began to trust him. There was a knock on the door, and they were called out. Iris looked at the Count, feeling his support envelop her. He nodded encouragingly, and together they headed for the exit. Her heart was beating faster, but she knew that she was not alone now. The Count was nearby. Looking at him, Iris realized that she was afraid of meeting the guests, but the Count assured her that everything would be fine. His smile and confidence were transmitted to her, and she felt a little bolder. They went out together like a couple ready to conquer everyone around. A social event began in the hall. Iris saw how the ladies in bright dresses were animatedly talking, and they had already paid attention to her. She understood that many trials lay ahead, But an inner voice told her that with Count Green by her side, she could cope with any difficulties. During a banquet, a group of noble ladies discuss the unexpected appearance of the local nobility. They suspect that the guests have come only to confirm the rumors. The ladies' looks are full of condemnation, but hidden smiles reveal their desire to know all the details. Gillette is a red-haired girl with an arrogant expression and is full of confidence. Her outfit screams about her status, and her eyes are filled with confidence that today she shines more than anyone else. She considers others unworthy of even being called a lady. Gillette, hiding behind her fan, listens to her thoughts with a smile, confident that her beauty and grace surpass everyone in the room. However, her self-admiration is suddenly interrupted by the news of the arrival of the Count and Countess, which causes her slight anxiety. While Gillette maintains her mask of imperturbability, she cannot hide her irritation at the loud announcement. She expresses her displeasure by wondering why it was necessary to make so much noise. Her calm begins to crumble, foreshadowing what is to come. The moment Iris and Count Green appear, Gillette's expression changes. Her confidence begins to waver. She notices with annoyance and surprise that the attention of all the guests is focused exclusively on this couple. Iris, in an elegant white dress, is happy that so many people have come to the banquet. Her friendly smile and easy manner attract glances, and the atmosphere around her becomes filled with light and warmth. The guests discuss Iris and Count Green with admiration, noting their harmony. They call them the perfect couple, and their appearance makes a stunning impression. Gillette's envy and anger grow, which she tries to hide. Gillette, seeing everyone's attention to the couple, cannot understand what makes them so special. She experiences intense discontent, believing that their delight is exaggerated. Her envy gradually turns into a feeling of rivalry. Iris and Count Green radiate calm and harmony. Their presence seems filled with a special magnetism. This causes even more indignation in Gillette, who refuses to acknowledge their superiority. Gillette swears to herself that she will not lose. Her pursed lips and furious gaze indicate that she is not going to give in. She is ready to do everything to regain attention and prove her exclusivity. Iris and Count Green arrived at the reception. They looked elegant. The Count was reserved as always, and Iris radiated sophistication. Gillette noticed them and was surprised. Her attention was drawn to Iris's refined beauty. She could not contain her excitement, realizing that the arrival of the guests would bring unexpected changes. Gillette greeted the Count with a broad smile. She emphasized how long she had been waiting for his arrival, demonstrating her excitement. Those around her noticed her lush and bright outfit, which symbolized her desire to stand out. Envious glances and whispers flashed behind the guests' backs. The guests discussed Iris, her dress, and her origin. The whispers grew into rumors. Many could not believe that she had come with the Count. The women held back their envy, noticing the details of her outfit and the refinement of her manners. Surprise was in the air, and the crowd looked at Iris with undisguised interest. The worried parents of one of the guests appeared among the crowd, looking for their daughter. Their faces expressed fear and confusion. Panic began to take hold of everyone around, and Gillette, standing nearby, could not figure out how best to react. The situation was heating up, increasing the overall tension at the reception. Gillette, trying to look confident, received compliments for her appearance. However, her thoughts were occupied with Iris. She understood that the Count's attention was focused on this mysterious girl and not on her. The situation was heating up, and jealousy began to arise in her soul. Iris thanked them for the invitation with a soft smile, leaving everyone confused. Gillette was surprised because she didn't remember inviting her. This made her feel confused and slightly suspicious. Questions swarmed in her head, but she couldn't find any answers. Iris calmly explained that this banquet was open to all comers, which only increased Gillette's surprise. Gillette couldn't understand how this girl could act so confidently, as if she was here by right. Her face expressed a mixture of confusion and irritation. Anxiety flared up in Gillette's soul. She felt Iris becoming the center of attention. Gillette was afraid that her own influence would be undermined. At that moment, she concluded to herself that Iris needed to be monitored so that her actions did not disrupt the usual way of life. The host's welcoming speech was about to begin the ceremony. The anticipation died down, and the guests' attention turned to the stage. However, in the minds of many, the impression of the strange dynamics between Iris the Count and Gillette remained. The tension grew, foreshadowing the intrigues to come. The applause sounded, but there was a premonition of change in the air. Iris looked calm and confident. Her soft gaze was full of hidden intentions. Gillette, on the contrary, was lost in her thoughts. The evening promised to be the beginning of new intrigues, changing the fates of the banquet participants. Iris greeted the guests at her banquet reception, her soft voice filling the atmosphere with warmth. The girl in the brown dress looked at her hostess with admiration as conversations and festive noises echoed around her. Iris's joy seemed genuine. She wanted everyone to feel comfortable. The appearance of Iris with Count Green caused excitement among the guests. Her exquisite dress emphasized her nobility, and the calmness of Green standing next to her gave her confidence. Inspired by the moment, Iris wanted to wish the guests a wonderful evening, but was suddenly interrupted by an unexpected cry. A man in the crowd loudly addressed Count Green, asking a provocative question about the rumors surrounding Iris. The situation became tense. Many turned to see what would happen next. Green remained cold and serious, his tension visible in every movement, but Iris looked at him calmly. Iris gently but firmly asked Green to let her sort this out herself. She approached the man without being distracted by the disapproving looks of the crowd. Iris was ready to defend her dignity and do everything to prevent the situation from escalating into a scandal while maintaining her composure. The focus was on Iris and the man whose behavior was rude. The crowd held their breath as they watched their dialogue. The man justified himself by mentioning that the banquet was supposedly held to discuss these rumors. His words raised eyebrows, but Iris decisively dispelled doubts. Looking straight at her interlocutor, Iris denied the assumptions, reminding him that she had no need to organize receptions for the sake of discussing false rumors. Her calmness and confidence surprised many, and the man froze in confusion, realizing his mistake. Iris emphasized that the truth was important only for her husband and family. She reminded that other people's opinions should not matter if the truth remains unchanged. Green stood next to her, supporting her with his presence, his gaze expressing pride for Iris. Despite the Count's support, Iris noted that even the Holy Father decided to find out the truth. She turned to the man asking why not solve this problem right now. Iris was not afraid to face public opinion, wanting to prove her case. The man introduced himself as a journalist from a major newspaper, calling his publication the most influential in the country. He wanted to interview Iris to find out the truth. His voice sounded excited, and his gaze expressed genuine interest, causing the guests to whisper. The newspaper to which the journalist belonged was indeed a very respected one. A surge of interest in Iris's story was now inevitable. However, her determination and the Count's support inspired respect. The banquet was the beginning of something greater for Iris and her family. Whitnick is an ambitious reporter known for his provocative articles, who uncovers the biggest scandals. He strives to write about what others ignore. His attention to detail and passion for the truth make him an icon of journalism. On the pages of newspapers, he personifies the relentless pursuit of truth. Whitnick has a remarkable insight and courage that is admirable. He takes meticulous notes, each one bringing him closer to the next scandal. His determination and willingness to take risks to uncover the truth are fascinating and inspiring. In the past, Whitnick wrote an article about the unjust conviction of a werewolf. His piece stirred up public outcry but angered the powers that be. These events led to his own conviction. He is led to execution amidst boos and harsh accusations, highlighting the price of truth. Memories of the tragedy of the past haunt Whitnick, but they do not stop him. He knows that the banquet is the perfect opportunity to learn more. He is driven by curiosity and a desire to discover the truth, even if it threatens him with new dangers. Count Green notices Whitnick and feels the tension. Restrained hostility and anxiety are evident on his face. Unlike Iris, who smiles in an attempt to diffuse the situation, the Count is clearly worried. Despite the tension, Whitnick remains adamant. The Earl is irritated by the journalist's persistence, but he holds back his emotions. Iris tries to calm him down with a warm smile and words of encouragement, but the Earl clearly does not share her mood. Rumors of Whitnick's presence spread quickly among the banquet guests. People discuss his motives, trying to understand what he is looking for and what secrets he wants to reveal. Gillette, a red-haired lady, stands out among the guests with her determined attitude. Gillette, aware of the public's keen interest, decides not to hide behind the public's backs. She is ready to answer questions, even provocative ones. Her confidence and readiness to act attract attention, making the guests freeze in anticipation. Whitnick carefully records all the details of what is happening, not missing anything. His gaze and notebook are the main tools. He is preparing to ask his main question that can change a lot that day. Gillette comes to the forefront, her fierce gaze reflecting her inner strength. She says that she is ready to reveal the truth. This scene becomes a climax, where everyone is waiting for her words, and Whitnick is like a predator ready to seize prey in the form of a sensation. Surrounded by many people, the atmosphere of tension gradually evaporates. All eyes are directed at the figure in the center, the decisive and confident Richard. He introduces himself as the Knight of Light, who has gained fame as a fiery fighter, causing admiration and surprise among those around him. His appearance takes on a dramatic quality. Richard majestically declares himself Baron James Russell, the blazing fire of justice. Against the backdrop of golden radiance, his image takes on an almost mythical grandeur. Flowers and ornaments emphasize his charisma, attracting everyone's attention. The crowd murmurs in surprise. People discuss that the Knight of Light is only a servant of the Count, but his loyalty and knowledge of the details of the Green family's personal life inspire respect. Their bewilderment is mixed with respect for his courage and loyalty. In the face of rumors about Countess Iris, Richard firmly declares that she does not have to justify herself. His firm voice sounds like a shield for her honor. He promises to expose the absurd gossip himself, defending her reputation with unwavering confidence. The reporters become the center of attention. Their faces, astonished and slightly frightened, betray their inner turmoil. They hold their notes, ready for any development. Among the crowd, Richard singles out the main culprit of the rumors. With their hands raised, the embarrassed reporters admit their guilt. The crowd around them freezes, waiting for the outcome. Richard, with his strength and charisma, makes everyone feel responsible for what they said and wrote. His accusatory gesture turns out to be accurate. He notices the one who wrote the first article about the Countess. The reporter, unable to withstand the pressure, confesses to what he did. There are cries of surprise mixed with indignation all around. When asked where the information was taken from, the reporter tries to justify himself by referring to rumors. His trembling voice betrays fear. Richard does not let him escape responsibility, reminding him that gossip is not a reason for publication. Rumors become the central theme of the prosecution. Richard clearly points out that writing articles without evidence is slander and a crime. His stern view leaves no room for doubt that such actions will have to be answered for. With stern calm, Richard addresses the crowd, noting that truth always has power behind it. He exposes the reporter, defending the honor of Countess Iris and Earl Green. The crowd freezes, realizing that truth always prevails. A young journalist discusses his article, which was published first. He is reproached that the newspaper should publish the truth and not rumors. He justifies himself by saying that he interviewed one person, which emphasizes his desire to protect his reputation. When asked who gave him the information, the journalist points to the girl. Her reaction is shocking, with obvious fear in her eyes. This creates tension and intrigue, increasing interest in what is happening. Amid the crowd, a rumor emerges about the Countess allegedly meeting with the Viscount. The girl, in a panic, tries to justify herself by claiming that she herself only heard it as gossip. Her indecision adds dynamics to the plot. The journalist asks who exactly she heard this information from. The guilty girl points to another woman. This triggers a chain of accusations, emphasizing the chaos of the situation. The story unfolds further. Each of the accused refers to other people who passed on the rumor to her. This development resembles dominoes, where each piece pulls the next one along, creating tension. The last in the chain is Gillette, a red-haired girl with green eyes. Her appearance heightens the drama as she becomes the epicenter of the accusations. Her expression betrays fear and bewilderment. The crowd surrounds Gillette, asking her questions about the Countess and the Viscount. She avoids direct answers, which only further inflames the situation. The situation turns into a chaotic whirlwind of emotions and accusations. When she is asked for evidence, she finds herself in a difficult situation. Her gaze is tense, her thoughts are confused, and those around her demand explanations. Panic seizes the girl, making her nervous. Under pressure, she names a name, Gillette, trying with all her might to absolve herself of guilt. However, this only complicates her situation as all eyes turn to her again, expecting further confessions. Gillette remains the center of attention. She is overcome with panic and internally wonders what to do next. Her face expresses fear, and her internal monologue hints that she understands the seriousness of the situation. The red-haired girl with green eyes, Gillette, looked thoughtful, standing with her back to two maids who were discussing some gossip. Gillette catches snippets of conversation, her face expressing anxiety, hinting at the secret that she is about to uncover. She gets into an argument with a man with long blonde hair who dismisses her words as impossible. However, Gillette, full of emotion, insists that she is telling the truth, her eyes sparkling with confidence. The man coldly states that he does not believe her. His smile turns sinister as he tries to reveal why he believes her words are not true. The tension between them grows. Gillette defends herself desperately, her voice shaking with emotion. She claims that she was framed out of envy, her jewelry sparkling, emphasizing her passion and rage. Her words sound like a challenge to anyone who questions her integrity. She recalls how Viscount Hutches allegedly confessed to his relationship with Countess Green. Her voice is filled with emotion, and her eyes are full of fire as she convinces those gathered that she is right. The blonde man brought Viscount Hutches himself to confirm or deny Gillette's words. His calm confidence is frightening, creating a tense atmosphere in the presence of the crowd. Things get tense when they decide to sum things up. Gillette is shocked but tries to maintain her confidence. The Viscount, on the other hand, looks worried and confused. In public, a fair-haired man asks the Viscount a direct question about his past relationship with Countess Green. All eyes are on the Viscount, and the atmosphere becomes increasingly tense. The Viscount panics and denies everything, but Gillette does not give in. She loudly insists that it is true. Her emotions overwhelm her, and her speech is full of accusations directed at the Viscount. She reminds the Viscount of how he himself told these stories upon arrival at the mansion. He desperately denies her words, calling them madness. Their argument becomes the culmination of the drama, forcing everyone to think about the truth. Gillette emotionally claims that she heard the Viscount's words about his love for the maids and suggests turning to witnesses. Her determination causes tension in the conversation with James and other participants in the situation. In response to Gillette's words, she is told that she is mistaken and that the Viscount has already been questioned, but he denies what he said. Gillette, in confusion, does not believe what she heard, which increases her confusion and doubts. Gillette begins to panic. She is convinced that the Viscount himself spoke about his feelings. Her emotional state is heating up, her voice is shaking, and her words sound like excuses to avoid shame. Father Gillette, losing patience, falls to his knees before Iris and Count Green, begging them to forgive his daughter for her stupid actions. His behavior shocks those around him, and Gillette herself falls silent from what she sees. The couple kneels before the Countess and looks humiliated. Father Gillette tearfully apologizes for his daughter's actions. The atmosphere becomes tense, and Iris and Count Green remain calm, but their eyes show that the situation has affected them. Gillette watches in shock. She can't understand how things have gotten this far. It's hard for her to accept that her father and stepmother are humiliating themselves to make up for her mistakes. Count Green and Iris appear with a look of cold confidence. Their calm and posture demonstrate their superiority in the situation. They watch the pleas of Gillette's parents without any sign of concern. Iris smiles wryly as she reflects on the fact that the Gillette family is willing to do anything for their reputation. Gillette realizes that her actions caused this scene and guilt consumes her. Gillette retreats into the shadows, tormented by thoughts of how everything went wrong. She bitterly recalls that she acted only for the sake of Count Green, but the result was devastating. Iris asks Gillette's parents to stand up, demonstrating politeness and control over the situation. Their reaction remains calm, but it is clear that what happened left a mark on all participants in this story. Iris, with a cold expression on her face, explains to Gillette that the apology she offers is not addressed to her at all. The words sound like a sentence, plunging Gillette into the realization of her own guilt, and the tense atmosphere seems to weigh on everyone present. Realizing the scale of her offense, Gillette admits that she desecrated Iris's name. The broken glass symbolizes her feelings, the ruined actions for which she asks for punishment, considering herself the only one to blame for what happened. Bowing repentantly before Iris, Gillette begs for forgiveness, her voice trembling with emotion. The crowd begins to whisper, condemning her lies and the audacity with which she hoped to escape the consequences, increasing her humiliation. Despite her remorse, Gillette, looking at Iris with trepidation, decides to confront the rumors. Her categorical no in response to the accusations causes surprise among those around her, and her eyes burn with despair and the desire to defend her honor. Iris, with her noble bearing, declares that since the misunderstanding has been resolved and the apology accepted, she will not punish Gillette. Her gentle smile and words of mercy relieve the tension and amaze those around her. A murmur among the assembled applauds Iris's action, calling her merciful. Her reputation as an innocent flower is confirmed once again, though this only serves to heighten the interest in what is happening. But one of the observers, a young reporter, realizes that behind Iris's mercy lies a carefully planned move. Her actions are arranged in such a way as to attract the attention of the public and ensure loud publicity. Iris appears before everyone as a merciful countess, forgiving the false rumors spread by Gillette. The papers floating around her symbolize her influence and power, emphasizing her solemn appearance. For Gillette, however, forgiveness becomes the beginning of a new nightmare. She realizes that instead of truly forgiving Iris, she turns society against her by cutting off her support and ruining her reputation. Gillette and her family are doomed to become outcasts while Iris emerges victorious. The apparent forgiveness turns out to be a clever strategic move, confirming the Countess's cunning and calculation. Iris and Count Green are together on the street. Their elegant images attract the attention of others. Iris looks calm and graceful, and Count Green watches her with a slight smile. He seems to admire her personality, noting that she is an extraordinary woman. Is depicted stating that Iris has received a pardon from the Viscountess. This moment highlights Iris's influence in high society and her ability to act strategically even in difficult situations. Iris analyzes the reaction of reporters, noting that her actions are perceived as a game. However, the public sees her as a saint, which only increases her influence and popularity. Iris, immersed in her bathtub, reflects on how her lack of power makes her actions visible to society. She understands that the increased attention could be her trump card in the game, but feels a growing inner anxiety. She expresses her dissatisfaction with the nickname she has been given, Duke Whitlow's Flower. She does not like this role because it hides expectations and labels that do not match her true feelings. The atmosphere changes when Count Green appears. His friendly smile and easy manner add a light and romantic touch to the story. Iris is clearly surprised by his unexpected appearance. Iris tries to understand the intentions of Count Green, who offers to share a moment of solitude with her. In his hands is a bottle of wine, which hints at a desire to spend time in a relaxed atmosphere. Count Green joins Iris by sitting down next to the bathtub. His actions demonstrate trust and a desire to maintain a warm, almost intimate conversation. They enjoy each other's company, finding a moment of peace amidst all the intrigue. Iris, holding a glass, offers to make a toast. Her gaze expresses confidence and ease, as if she is accepting a new turn in their relationship, finding inner freedom. Their conversation ends with an agreement on the importance of the rumors that have finally died down. Count Green expresses hope for the future and mentions the wedding, and Iris, full of hidden emotions, seems to open a new chapter in her life. In the exquisitely decorated garden, Count Green and Iris raise their glasses of wine, their eyes filled with warmth. They discuss the pleasant moments of preparation for the wedding, enjoying the atmosphere of coziness. Green proudly notes the success of his assistant who took care of the details of the ceremony. Iris listens with a smile and slight irony about how Green's assistant sent out invitations to their wedding. She lies leaning on her arm, her appearance radiating tenderness. Green continues to share plans at the same time, making sure that everything goes perfectly. In the snowy courtyard, Count Green is discussing the final preparations for the ceremony with another man. He reports that the issues with the priest-father have been resolved, and all that remains is to receive his blessing. The man's excitement is clearly visible in his gestures and facial expression. Back in her chambers, Iris relaxes with a glass of wine in her hands. She radiates satisfaction, noting that finally all the problems and doubts are behind her. Count Green, who is nearby, carefully monitors her mood, ready to support her. Iris, noticing Green's concern, asks him if he's been to a wedding before. He replies negatively with a slight smile. The atmosphere is filled with ease and comfort, creating the feeling that the two are in complete harmony with each other. Green advises Iris to have a good rest, because a wedding celebration is always a very tiring event. His words sound sincere, and he does everything to make Iris feel comfortable. She gratefully accepts his care. Iris notices how touchingly Green cares for her. Her thoughts are filled with warmth, and she feels how much he tries for her peace and happiness. Her gaze becomes even softer, and a slight smile touches her lips. Count Green gently touches Iris's face and looks into her eyes. The room becomes intimate and tender. A moment of sincere emotion occurs between them, which increases their closeness. They embrace, immersed in waves of emotion. Iris's hands touch Green with tenderness, while he shows his care by holding her tightly. This moment expresses their complete trust and mutual admiration for each other. Green and Iris kiss, expressing their deep affection. She mentally confesses how much she is drawn to him, how his warmth and attention have become an integral part of her life. Their love grows stronger, preparing them for their future life together. Iris, with pink hair and tear-filled eyes, reaches out to Count Green. She asks him not to stop, but he tensely pulls away, full of internal struggle. A moment of passion and doubt flares between them, where feelings clash with reason. Count Green holds back his emotions. His gaze remains cold despite Iris's warm touch. She longs for more intimacy, but his refusal sounds firm. The situation escalates. The emotional tension reaches its limit. Their conversation ends with a hug full of mutual understanding. The Count explains that it is worth enduring until marriage, emphasizing the importance of self-control. Despite this, their connection becomes stronger, and their feelings become deeper. Iris's thoughts are filled with a sincere desire to reunite with the Count and to open herself up to him completely. Her heart is filled with the determination to trust him despite the fears that previously held her back. She remembers the moment her feelings for him began to change. The Count's gentle touch and care sparked in her the realization that he had become much more than just an ally. Iris realizes she is in love with the Count when he extends his hand to her. In the rainy scene, they exchange a look of understanding, symbolizing their mutual acceptance and growing feelings. Iris's memories are interrupted by threatening words. Dark thoughts fill her mind, reflecting her fears and the pressure of society that condemns any deviation from the norm. She experiences internal conflict. She is accused of cheating and insults are thrown at her. The scene is filled with drama, as hurtful words are thrown at Iris. Her attempts to justify herself are broken by a wall of mistrust and hostility. Punishment becomes inevitable. Iris's enraged husband screams, refusing to listen to explanations. His anger falls on her, turning words into humiliation and their relationship into chaos. Iris suffers physical and mental humiliation. Her red dress and tears emphasize her suffering. Deep down, she hopes for salvation, but she realizes that the choice she once made led her to this moment. Iris, a girl with pink hair and violet eyes, kneels down, aware of her vulnerability. Her pale face expresses depression and confusion. Feeling as if her presence is causing contempt, she silently tries to maintain the remnants of dignity despite her humiliating situation. A plump beauty in a green dress, whose confidence and abruptness are striking, mocks Iris. She points out Iris's supposedly magnetic power over men, expressing mockery in words and gestures. The reproaches sound harsh and are based on threats and aggression, which Iris seems accustomed to putting up with. The irritation turns into action. The green-eyed beauty roughly grabs Iris by the hair, humiliating her even more. Iris tries to hold on but looks lost as the ridicule continues. Everything that happens seems to confirm the usual state of affairs in their relationship. Iris listens quietly, unable to resist. The woman in the green dress looks at her with contempt, reproaching her for her repeated mistakes. Each word she says reminds Iris of her past failures, plunging the girl into dark thoughts about how she ended up in this situation. These words make Iris think back to her youth, when she was more confident and strong. However, now she feels broken and drowning in endless regret. Iris's internal monologue reveals her attempts to understand why her life has changed so much. The crowd laughs as the woman in the green dress orders Iris to be made beautiful. This order highlights their difference in status. Iris remains on the floor, meekly accepting the orders as the ridicule intensifies, eating away at her self-esteem. Iris hangs her head, wondering how long she can continue to survive this cycle of humiliation. She thinks that if the woman in the green dress's new suitor doesn't like her, then maybe everything will change. This thought clings to her consciousness like a weak ray of hope. The banquet continues. The guests admire the magnificence of the event, and Iris, hiding from everyone, continues to suffer. The external glitter and luxury around her do not matter. She again finds herself alone with her pain and inner doubts. Her legs hurt terribly. The open wounds prevent her from even standing. Iris moves slowly, experiencing torment not only physically but also emotionally. The world around her seems to be an insurmountable obstacle, increasing the heaviness on her soul with each step. Trying to find some refuge, Iris decides to leave. However, realizing that there is no peace waiting for her at home either, she hesitates. Thoughts of home and the banquet hall intertwine, increasing her despair. She is left alone with pain and the hope that perhaps one day everything will change. Iris watched the man named Cavelin Green, realizing that he was Brittany's lover. She was overcome with anxiety that his presence here might be noticed, and she prayed that her presence would remain unnoticed. Iris felt the tension hiding in the shadows where her heart beat faster. It was raining that day, adding to the gloomy mood. Iris looked at the dark sky and thought that the rain had become a good cover for her presence. This fragile moment of silence allowed her to calm down a little, but the awareness of her danger did not leave her for a minute. She walked through the empty garden where there was not a single living soul. The atmosphere around her was oppressive with its emptiness, and her steps echoed loudly in the silence. The rain hid her tears and allowed Iris to feel invisible, although her fear was too obvious. Sitting on a stone bench in the garden, Iris felt the pain from her wounds gradually subside. The cold rain was like a false hope, but the girl tried to gather the remaining strength to continue moving forward. Her thoughts rushed between the past and the present, giving her no rest. Iris knew that her behavior might seem strange to others, but she cared less about it. She had only one goal in her head: to dull the pain that was burning inside her. The girl hoped that she could return home before her absence was noticed. She heard someone say that Captain Paimond was acting suspiciously and needed to be watched. The words made Iris tense up. She realized that she wasn't the only one hiding here, and this realization only increased her anxiety. Iris realized that her presence at the banquet was part of a complex and possibly dangerous game. She felt that this moment was bringing her closer to discovering what was hidden behind the seemingly calm atmosphere. Events began to form a coherent but frightening picture. James was discussing the documents he had found with a man, and Iris overheard their conversation. She couldn't figure out how it related to her, but her instincts told her that something important was happening here. Her anxiety was growing with each passing minute. Iris saw one of the men handing a blue stone to the other. The artifact looked mysterious and attractive. The man noted that he did not think it was a relic, but wanted to examine it in more detail. This action raised even more questions in Iris. She realized that she was witnessing something more significant than she could have imagined. She was overcome by the feeling that this scene, like the stone itself, was the key to solving many mysteries. Iris felt that this night would change everything she knew. Iris sits in the rain, her face folded in her knees. Her long pink hair is wet and her expression is tired and sad. She seems to be trying to hide from reality, her quiet words blending with the sound of the rain. In the background, the silhouette of an architectural element reinforces the atmosphere of loneliness and helplessness. Iris notices the presence of another person. She looks up and tries to maintain her composure, but there is worry in her eyes. Her soft movements, her hand pressed to her chest, are an attempt to protect herself from a world that seems to have become too much for her. Count Green, dark-haired and dressed in formal attire, leans toward Iris. His gaze is insistent and anxious. He speaks words that make Iris flinch slightly. He tries to understand what has happened, his hand pointing to her tear-stained face. The Count recognizes Iris. He is clearly surprised to meet the Viscountess here in such a state. Iris is embarrassed. Her confused eyes seem to beg for mercy. The rain continues to fall, increasing the sense of drama and tension of the moment. The Count notices the wounds on Iris's legs. Traces of blood and abrasions are visible even in the rain. His indignation grows, and he asks who could have done this. Iris, slightly turning away, tries to hide her emotions, but her trembling betrays her fear. Iris assures the Count that she is fine. She begs him not to worry, but he is concerned about her condition. He wants to call a doctor, but Iris refuses, insisting that the injuries are minor. Her voice is filled with desperation and pleading. Iris suddenly screams for the Count to stop. Her voice is loud but weak. She begs him not to do anything, begs him to forget what happened. Her gaze is a mixture of horror and resignation. The Count is silent, but his face reflects an internal struggle. He understands that inaction will not solve the problem. His gaze hardens, and he clearly intends to act despite Iris's resistance. Iris, sensing his determination, tries to explain. She lowers her head, avoiding his gaze. Her voice trembles, but she says that there are reasons for hiding the truth, that she needs it to survive. Count Green looks at Iris with sympathy, but his eyes are full of determination. He says words that make Iris freeze. He understands her pain, but he will not stand aside. His last look promises that he will do everything to help. In the pouring rain, Iris, a petite girl with long pink hair, leans toward a man in black. Her eyes are troubled and raindrops are running down her face. The man, kneeling, hands her a small vial of liquid, insisting on its use. Iris takes it cautiously. Iris looks at the bottle in her hands. The man explains to her that this remedy must be applied to the wounds, otherwise scars will remain. The girl looks at her reflection in the glass bottle with slight excitement, realizing the importance of his words and nods gratefully in response. The man suddenly promises Iris to keep the fact that he saw her here a secret. His voice sounds serious but reassuring. Iris looks up at him, a little surprised by his decision. Her damp hair clings to her face, adding drama to her tremulous reaction. The man turns his back and apologizes to Iris. She watches his retreating figure with slight regret, but there is also relief in her gaze. His steps, despite the rain, sound confident, as if he had just made an important decision for himself. Iris quietly thanks Count Green, who remains nearby watching her. Her voice is barely audible over the sound of the rain. She sits on the ground looking both fragile and majestic, and the Count turns his head slightly to give her a parting glance. Turning around again, the Count notices Iris's gaze. She is slightly confused, but quickly hides her emotions by looking down. The rain becomes even heavier, but this only emphasizes the tension in their silent exchange of glances. The Count comes closer and holds out his hand, in which lies a small decoration, a silver triskel, sparkling even in cloudy weather. Iris looks at him with surprise, barely holding back her trepidation. There is a softness in his gesture and look, as if he wants to support her. Iris gathers her courage and asks why the Count is giving her such a valuable gift. She holds the triskel in her palm, clearly feeling its significance, but her voice sounds hesitant. Her eyes are full of bewilderment and gratitude. The Count explains that he feels she needs luck now. His voice sounds confident and friendly. He looks her straight in the eyes as if trying to instill strength in her. Iris is struck by the sincerity and warmth of his words. Bowing before Iris, Earl Green wishes her luck. She lowers her head, covering her face with her hands to hide her emotions. The rain continues to pour, but in this moment there is nothing but warmth and support that he tries to convey to her. Iris remembers the fateful day when she spoke to Count Green for the first and last time. They were met by an imperious older man against the backdrop of a majestic castle. Iris stood behind him embarrassed, while the stranger excitedly explained something to the Count. That moment remained a vivid memory for her. That day was the only time Iris and Earl Green were alone together. She watched his hard features with concern, sensing the underlying tension. Iris couldn't understand why he looked so distant, but inside she felt that this moment was important for both of them. The cloudy sky did not hinder the warmth that Iris felt from the Count's small gesture. She remembered his sincere look that warmed her heart. Although this day was filled with doubts, a bright imprint of his kindness remained in her memory. After the events of that day, Iris realized that she had begun to develop feelings for Earl Green. She reflected on how his unexpected care and determination had changed her perception of life. This moment became a turning point in her thoughts about him. Iris suddenly remembered how the Count had once tried to save her. It had been such a powerful act that she felt a deep sense of respect welling up in her soul. The Count had never hesitated to put her safety above all else. Iris looked at Green, feeling that his presence had become the only ray of light in her life. Her heart filled with tenderness, and she realized that he had become more than just a savior for her, but something more. When Iris addressed the Count by name, his gaze softened. Her voice trembled with emotion, but she felt their bond grow stronger. This was the moment when their fates began to intertwine, creating something greater. Iris thanked Green with a modest smile. She felt that she could now begin a new life in which he would occupy a special place. This moment was a symbol of hope and a new chapter in her destiny. Count Green looked at Iris and noticed how she touched his heart. He felt something new and unusual that made him think about what role she would play in his life. Her words lit a warm spark in him. Iris and Green, like two lights, began to see each other as more than just companions of fate. Their hearts beat in unison, creating a new melody that they had not yet had time to comprehend. This day changed their lives forever. Iris, a beautiful girl with pink hair, looked at Count Green with unusual warmth. Her gaze was full of tenderness, and the words inside her sounded like a quiet promise. The Count felt his heart begin to beat faster, trying to hide his embarrassment behind a mask of calm. Count Green, who was used to being cool and reserved, suddenly found himself trapped by his own emotions. He held his face, trying to hide the excitement that had overwhelmed him. Iris seemed to have turned his whole world upside down, leaving him confused. The Count's servants appeared in the corridor, greeting him with respect. They were surprised to see their master in such a state. However, the Count quickly found an excuse and ordered everyone to return to their duties, trying not to reveal the real reason for their embarrassment. One of the servants, the young and daring Wills, tried to find out what had happened to the Count. However, his attempts were interrupted by a stern remark. The Count categorically refused to explain, leaving everyone to guess what had brought him to such a state. Servant James, with a gentle smile, tried to calm Green by saying that the Earl was going through hard times. These words caused a violent reaction from Green, who clearly did not agree with such a description of his condition, but did not argue. James mentioned that he had received a letter from another Earl regarding a wedding invitation. Green paused for a moment, considering his next move. His emotions were mixed, but he tried to remain calm. The Earl looked tense as he left the conversation. James suggested that he speak directly to his father to resolve the issues causing confusion. The Earl nodded his agreement and told everyone to leave. The servants began to talk about what was really going on with the Earl. Wills continued to tease James, trying to find out more, but James only joked, promising to tell the details later. The Count, left alone, went to a special room where a magical communication device was located. This instrument had long been created by magicians and was used only by persons of special importance in the state. Sitting in front of the device, the Count was deep in thought. He couldn't believe how everything had gotten so tangled up and was trying to find a solution. His hands nervously touched the device while a plan of action was being born in his head. Earl Green felt the strain as his father scowled at him for not apologizing and instead trying to justify himself. Green realized that he had disappointed his family, as his parents had been shocked to see him mentioned in the newspaper. He could not hide the weight of guilt that was gnawing at his heart. The father tried to understand why his son had ended up in such a situation. Count Green tried to explain that it was a complicated story, but family trust was stronger than his arguments. The father emphasized that they had always believed in him more than any rumors or documents, and this only made his guilt worse. When the symbol of Duke Whitlow came up in conversation, Count Green thought about the secret of the Duke's family. He remembered that the Duke hid one of his daughters, not allowing her to be shown to outsiders. This mystery stirred Green's thoughts again, making him doubt that he knew the whole truth. Despite his outbursts of anger, the father tried to reason logically. He mentioned that while all men admired the beauty of women, their actions should be dictated by honor. Earl Green realized that his decision to hide the details only increased his parents' disappointment and worsened the situation. Thoughts about Whitlow turned to a discussion of his eldest daughter, Brittany, who had long since become part of high society. However, the second daughter remained in the shadows. Green could not understand why the Duke was so persistent in hiding her when his resources and status allowed her to shine in public. Green's mother suggested that the Duke was hiding his youngest daughter for his own gain. Perhaps he wanted to use her to make a deal with Iris, caring only for his own benefit. This suggestion raised new questions, and Green felt even more cornered by the pressure of his parents' guesses. The father raised the issue that on the day the Duke of Whitlow took his daughter, Green's mind had passed to the Duke. It seemed like a strange coincidence. The parents wanted to know who had told them about it and demanded an explanation. Green knew that the whole truth might come out. The mother began to blame herself for the mistakes in raising her son, insisting that she had not supervised his development enough. She said that their family deserved more. The father added that a noble man should never act as Green did, which only increased the pressure. Tensions reached a peak when his father declared that buying a woman for marriage was immoral. They doubted whether Lady Whitlow had really given her consent. Green felt himself at the center of a storm of condemnation that made him question his actions. The conversation ended in a painful silence as the parents decided to check everything before making any final decisions. Count Green was left alone with his thoughts, realizing that his actions and lies had led to a situation where the family's trust was at risk.